Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Blades in the Dark, Ring Down Below. I'm Eli Kurtz, your game master. We were off 2 weeks ago because we were participating in a strike of Amazon. Twitch is owned by Amazon, but then we realized that my internet connection is not very good anyway, so we just decided to give up on Twitch because it's not that, Twitch was wrong, and it wasn't that I was wrong. It was that both of us were wrong. So this is the best break possible for all of us involved. We feel pretty good about it. But thanks for joining us. This is now going to be put up not live, but on YouTube eventually. So if you're watching, thanks for tuning in. We've got our traditional 3 players with us here tonight, and let's do some introductions before we jump into the game. Let's start with Baron.
What's up, guys? I'm Baron. I'm over at the YouTube channel RWD Gaming. We got some live plays. Come check us out. I got something going up tomorrow. Should everything go correctly. So tune in for that.
And technically that'll be today if this gets uploaded by Wednesday.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. A game on the 25th. The 25th of July, 2018.
On Earth.
On planet Earth.
Cool.
That revolves around the sun. Yeah.
Well, good to see you as always. Derek, let's do you next.
I'm Derek. I do not have a YouTube channel, so I mooch on these guys. I will be playing Clank tonight, and hopefully get up to some mischief. Looking forward to playing. Like Eli said, it's been a while since we've played, so looking forward to getting back into it.
Yeah, good to see you again, Derek. And last but not least, Jeremy.
Yes, sir. Hello, everybody. My name is Jeremy. I have the YouTube channel, The Erasmus Expeditions. We do live plays that are not quite like this because I'm not sophisticated enough to use Roll20 yet. But lots of D&D and other such sundries. I'm also 1/3 of the Dudes of Yore podcast, also to be found on YouTube. And tonight I will be reprising my role as Benji, the fast-talking, fast-piloting spider. That's what he's called. So very much looking forward to it. Having a blast with this campaign so far. So,
Yeah.
let's do it.
It's good to be reunited again. By the way, I should have mentioned I am the head honcho of the Mythic Gazetteer. Derek is a co-conspirator on that project, and we publish games and stuff. Most recently, we published a hack for the Quiet Year, a game by Avery Alder. Our hack is called The Summer Greening, and it's set in our Blackwood setting. So if you like story games, if you like the Quiet Year, or if you like the Blackwood, you should check that out. You can find it on Drive-Thru RPG. Once again, that's The Summer Greening.
I'm a very small part of the Mythic Gazetteer, as testament to Eli said, "Hey, we're publishing this." Oh, great!
Small but important, and small but fierce. Thank you for your contributions, Derek.
Thank you. I'm like a mouse.
All right, so with no more ado, let's get into this game. Welcome, scoundrels. Once again, KMGX and its affiliated stations are proud to present Gazetteer Radio's program, Ring Down Below, a tale of labor and struggle from the pitch-dark canals of Doskval. We go now to a city both familiar to and quite different from the Doskval we know. So, traditionally, we open by floating over the waters of the Void Sea, and we can see in the distance the skyline of Doskval looming against the broken skies above. But this time, it's not quite the same. We start to get closer, and we see that these buildings are not made out of brick and mortar or cement or wood or whatever. Instead, they're made out of this strange sort of translucent electroplasmic energy. And we get closer, and we hear soft wailing in the distance that grows as we start to move over the waters of the bay, and we get to the docks, and we see that instead of people walking around everywhere, these are ghosts. We find ourselves in the ghost field, that parallel dimension to the world of Doskval, where the spirits went once upon a time before the cataclysm that happened almost 1,000 years ago. And now, since the gates of death were opened and then shut those many years ago, the ghost field and our world are joined more closely than is comfortable, and there is often a lot of bleed between those two. One of our number especially has a long familiarity with this. This is Clank. Clank, in fact, takes amphetamines so that he doesn't have to sleep because he's uncomfortable around ghosts. Clank, I imagine
They're everywhere, man. They're everywhere.
I imagine that part of your hesitation to go asleep and think about ghosts is that you've been in the ghost field before. That's not a terribly uncommon thing to happen to a person. Sometimes they can fall in for moments or hours or days. And I want to know, Clank, what does it feel like when you're inside the ghost field? How is it different from being in the normal world?
So it's all fuzzy, man.
It's all fuzzy. Okay.
Yeah, it's like when your arm goes to sleep when you've been holding it in position too long. The tingles just go up you, and your whole body feels that way.
It's like that over your whole body. Okay. That sounds pretty uncomfortable. Intriguing, but uncomfortable. So we are moving through this ghost field area, and we can feel the tingling all over our body, up and down our spine, our limbs, at the tip of our hair, everything. And we're moving through the city, and we can see echoes of the real city, and we can see places where clearly there are buildings that are still existing in the real world, even though we see their electroplasmic counterparts here in the ghost field. But there are also places where there are no buildings in the real world, and we can see more clearly through the electroplasmic images of the buildings here in the ghost field. This is a building that has been raised in the real world decades ago, whereas here in the ghost field, its image remains. Because, of course, the ghost field is an echo of our world. It's separated by what some people call the mirror, what some people call the veil. And these places where the mirror is thin are known as spirit wells. They are essentially where it's possible for ghosts to come into the real world and where it's possible for people from the real world to glimpse into the ghost field. Benji, I want to know, you have a pretty good lay of the city because you are so involved in chasing adrenaline, whether that's in the canals or on the streets. Tell me, what kinds of terrain are most common spirit well sites? When you're walking around the city or when you're driving around the city, which places? Is it parks? Is it buildings? Is it canals? Where are you most likely to accidentally cross a spirit well?
I think spirit wells probably exist mainly where there's a close tie to death. So cemeteries, graveyards, morgues, and also places where a lot of people have died. You know, like a place where bodies are dumped frequently, or where there was a massacre that happened or an explosion.
So the docks.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so the docks are probably rife with spirit wells. The whole district is. And we find ourselves in the docks, actually, and we're moving around through this electroplasmic image of the docks, and then all of a sudden we feel the tingling on our bodies grow, and we can almost hear static in our ears, and then there's this snap, and we find ourselves in the real world, emerged from the ghost field, and we're wending through the alleyways of Ink Lane, and we're watching, people give tattoos in the alleyways, and we're watching newspaper printers align typesetting on their presses and put out papers for the day. And whenever we made the transfer from the ghost field into the real world, there was a particular weather effect. For example, whenever in those rare moments at dawn and dusk when the sun shines into a dull ember as opposed to being the black coal that it usually is, that hour, the dawn and dusk hour, called the blind hour, is often known for fog. And in the dim lighting, it mixes with the fog, and it's almost impossible to see anything because your night vision is just totally ruined in those moments. But Jonathan Black, I want to know, whenever we emerge from the ghost field, what weather effect is associated with that passage?
I don't know if it would be exactly a weather effect, but I feel like it would be applicable. Your ears pop. There's like a depressurization, like you're getting off a plane. It's not like, crippling, but like just a slight, like your hearing changes a bit.
Yeah, okay, I like that. So we're emerging from the ghost field, and we hear that snap, and we realize it's not like a barrier between worlds that's been broken. We realize it's a barrier within our minds that has been broken, and all of a sudden we hear that pop in our ears. like a pressure is changing, and then we find ourselves in the real world. Well, we're on the streets, but then all of a sudden we launch up above the city, and we can see rooftops that are covered in wooden passageways and patched roofs, and there are people who are up there watching. There are animals, these gigantic bats and things like that are flying around, and there's mist rising up from the city streets. And we go away from the docks and we cross over the River Dusk, and we go into the Silk Shore area. And as we're doing it, we're no longer in the ghost field, but we can feel that tingling sensation still. And we get closer and closer to the place where the Electric Eek finds its birth, the lair of the crew. And there's a sense of rising dread right on the back of your neck, like all your hairs are trying to jump off of your body. And Jonathan, you are asleep inside the lair, but you're having a restless, fitful sleep, and you're looking around inside this dreamland. You're stumbling as you try to move through, and then there's a moment when you turn a corner, and all of a sudden you see this larger-than-life specter looming over you. And the specter reaches out as if to grab you by the throat. And normally specters can't interact with living matter, but here it does. It grabs you and it lifts you up, and it says, "Traitorous dealings, the ring down below." And then there's a pop, and you wake up and you sit bolt upright in bed. And you can see, you remember from your time as a Leviathan hunter, the ring down below, the symbol of a Leviathan coming to the surface. It's as if you are a Leviathan hunter ship over dark water, and all around you for 100 feet you can see the water starting to get brighter, and you find yourself in a ring of light. But instead, you shake it off and you realize you're just in bed, and there's no light around you at all. It had something to do with the nightmare you just had. What did this ghost look like?
I think Jonathan himself is trying to put. He recognizes it. He can't exactly say who. His hair is long. It's not gray though. It's like a brown that's starting to crack, and it's at different lengths. He's very gaunt, sunken eyes, almost like if you looked at him at the right angle, it would look like he had no eyeballs at all. His cheeks are very drawn, his lips very, very small and thin. But Jonathan doesn't think that's probably why Jonathan doesn't recognize him. Is he looks withered, like a stalk in the middle of a old field.
Yeah, absolutely. So this withered stalk in the middle of your dreams, and you're trying to remember the details as they flee your mind because your mind does not want to contain them. What's the first thing you do after you get out of bed?
I would look at myself and I think I'm dressed. Like I passed out and I was sweating. Like it just got really hot. And, man, that's probably why I had a nightmare. Is I just got too hot. So I would take my shirt off and maybe look, for my normal cigarettes, the shitty Docker brand, half empty when you open them cigarettes, and just sit back. I picture myself on our futon, if we have one. We have a futon.
You've got a futon.
So I lean back and just kind of breathe for a second.
Okay, so you're leaning back on this futon. You take a drag out of your cigarette, and then you just breathe out the smoke into the air while you're letting your thoughts race. Is that what's going on?
Pretty much. My heart's probably still beating pretty fast from that. And, I'm trying to just shake it off. I'm probably wide awake.
Sure. Yeah. Panting, breathing heavily, something like that. Trying to get control of your nerves. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. It's hard because no sooner do you breathe out that smoke than it curls out into the open air, and then it curls around a figure that isn't there. you can see the outline of a face in the plume of smoke you've just breathed, and it's a face that is gaunt. Its eyes are sunken, its cheeks are drawn. It looks like a withered stalk out in the middle of a fallow field. And it looks at you and it says, "The ring down below." And you can hear this echo for a little while. And then you start to feel the futon is shaking underneath you. It's getting jostled around. What's your reaction?
So, I picture we have like a big spool for like a table, like some sort of cabling spool that we rolled in here. We got some like, one bar stool, a chair that's way too short for the table, and then, like the good chair. My gun, which I don't even know if I've pulled it out at all. It's just a pair of pistols. They're sitting on the table in like a kind of vest strap kind of holder, and in the darkness, all you see is like the tumble of the red dot of my cigarette. But I lunge for those in like a frantic attempt to find some way to defend myself.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So let's handle this with a roll of some kind. I think if you're going to defend yourself, are you basically going to turn and shoot on this ghost as soon as you can, or are you just trying to get to the pistols before the ghost can get to you?
Get to the pistols before the ghost can get to me.
Okay. Cool. So what action do you think you want to roll for that then?
Finesse probably. No,
Finesse. That
maybe.
that makes a lot of sense. Finesse and prowl both, I think, would make sense.
Well, I'm gonna go with finesse then.
Cool. All right. So go ahead and give me that roll.
Maybe I
whenever
like
you're ready.
flick the cigarette into the plume to see if it passes through, and then dive or something like that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you can flick the cigarette and it will go through. It will go through this like ghostly figure who's appeared in front of you.
Alright, so finesse, controlled or risky?
This will be risky. Well, desperate makes a certain amount of sense to me.
Yeah, I'm pretty desperate.
This is
Okay, effect.
I think effect could be standard. I mean, you're just trying to pick up the pistols. It's
Yeah.
not super difficult.
Go bonus die. 4.
4. Okay, you do it, but there's a consequence. You suffer severe harm. A complication occurs. You have reduced effect. So I'm going to say you have reduced effect. You lunge for these pistols, right? But it's pitch black, and you don't even have the little cherry of your cigarette to help you find this place. And so you stumble through the dark. I think you like lay out over the top of this table. So the pistols are underneath you. You can feel them, but you're scrambling to get a hold of them, right? And you roll over. You draw your pistols and you're like looking around the room, but the ghost is right on top of you. It's like hovering 2 inches over your face. And it says, "Betrayal, treachery."
Do we have like, I picture the doc as Irish, very Irish folk. So would I have like a rosary of some kind that I just have?
Oh, sure, yeah. You can absolutely have that. That could even be, so I think every character has a Spirit Bane charm on their character sheet. That could be your manifestation of the Spirit Bane charm.
Fair enough. And I don't know if it necessarily has like a symbol on it. Maybe it's just the beads themselves. So I pull that out to try and I like abandoning the gun with one hand to like fumble in my trouser pockets for this thing that's buried down and hasn't been used in who knows how long. Try and repulse this thing that's fucking assaulting me.
All right. Cool. So if you want to do a Spirit Bane thing, what you should do is roll a tune to see if you can push this ghost away from you.
All right. We just took a perk in that last level.
Perfect.
Is this still desperate?
It's still desperate for sure. You're not in ideal footing here.
Standard.
Yeah. Standard.
Got a 5.
A 5.
Yes.
Okay. So you do manage to push this ghost away, but the ghost flies up to the ceiling impacted by the force of your Spirit Bane charm, and it's stuck there for a little while, and it starts to leak through the floorboards up into the room above. And as it's leaking away, its body is going first. And if it had a skull, you would get the impression that its skull was kind of having trouble getting through. So one of the last things you can see is just this disembodied ghostly head with its split-end hair hanging down really stringy toward you. And it almost seems like the hair is 10 feet longer than it should be right now. It feels like it's right up in your face, even though it's on the ceiling. And this specter looks down at you and it says,
You cannot keep me away. The ring down below must end. Seek the silence.
and then it filters through the boards and the room is quiet. Meanwhile, I know Clank is over here at the docks at a workers' meeting. Would Benji like to be there as well, or is Benji doing something different?
Is he at the workers' meeting, or is he here at the hangout?
He can be at the hangout if you want, but if that's the case, then we'll wait to do your bit until after we've done Clank's bit.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any reason that Benji would be at the workers' meeting.
Okay.
Clank would take you. Clank is trying to recruit people to be the workers.
Okay, so he's there, reluctantly so.
Okay. So this is a workers' meeting where the foreman, a guy by the name of Chief Helker, you've met him once before, very briefly. Chief Helker is wrapping up his notes about, productivity in the workplace and how everybody is just complaining too much about workplace injuries and that sort of thing. And Chief Helker wraps up, as always, he says, "All right, you stupid workers, get back to the docks and do whatever you can to make us some money around here. We need it." And you hear a couple of voices grumbling, and he's like, "What was that?" And then you notice that there are some bluecoats who are standing kind of flanking him on either side. And they reach for their truncheons, and then all the workers quiet down after that. And he's like, "Yeah, that's what he thought. Now get back out into the yard and make me some money." And he walks off the platform. Dava, one of the foremen, he is watching this from the platform from behind with the other foreman. But as Chief Helker leaves, you can see Dava, he kind of like thumbs his nose, and then he looks meaningfully toward the back of the room. And the workers who are sympathetic to his cause, out of the 100 workers there, I'm going to say maybe 40 or 50 of the workers are sympathetic to his cause. They have congregated toward the back of the room, and they're all filtering out together and going toward this alleyway that's nearby for their own little meeting. And Clank, this is the real purpose of this workers' meeting. It wasn't to listen to Chief Helker complain to everybody. It was to organize afterward.
Okay.
So you follow them out into this alley, and Dava, he kind of gets up onto a crate, and Coil, his assistant, his silent bandage assistant, is standing beside him.
If there's like other people like making noise, then Clank would be like trying to hush people down, like hush.
Okay, yeah. So you're kind of quieting everybody down. Dava says, "Thank you so much, Clank. I do so appreciate your contribution to our meetings. You are a wonderful presence here. But first, of course, let's welcome our friend up on the stage so that we can have a little music to ease us into this here meeting. Adric, would you mind coming up here? And this fella, he's old. He's past his working days. He's got a huge, thick white beard that is a total contrast to the dark skin on his face. And he's got this pot belly, what small prosperity he can afford in his retirement. And he stands up and he says, "Well, thank you for having me up here, and I'd just like to open with some traditional words. You all know this hymn. You can sing along with it if you like." And he says, "Praise boss when morning work bells chime. Praise him for bits of overtime. Praise him whose wars we love to fight. Praise him, fat leech and parasite. Amen." And then everybody applauds and hoots and hollers and stuff, and it takes a little while to calm them down. But Dava Dava's like, yes, listen to the man. He's a strong fella. Trust me, you don't want to cross him. Now, I do appreciate everybody coming here to chat with us about things going on here in the docks area. And I see we've even got some high-profile attendees tonight. Yes, that's right. Not just Clank, the brilliant engineer of the Electric Eek, but also the pilot and a nobleman, Mr. Overstreet. It's quite nice to have your presence here at the meeting.
Well, yes, sir. It's well, Clank here invited me along, and you can't say no to Clank.
Clank gives you a hearty slap on the back, like, good man, Benji.
No, indeed, he is quite persuasive. That's an asset that we count in our favor, of course. But what I'm here to talk about, my fellow workers, is this notion that, well, we're not connected to the people, are we? No, we're not. You might say we're lagging behind. You might say we can't broadcast our signal in real time out to people. As much as it would be nice to tell people face to face that what we're doing is worthwhile, no, we have to rely on word of mouth, and word of mouth is slow. You might say it takes a little while to load up our ideas into the common people. It might even take a day, 2 days, a week sometimes, and that's just unacceptable. It makes me twitchy, and I hate being twitchy. It's tough. But what can we do about that, fellow workers? Do we have any ideas about how we can get our message out there faster? The crowd is conspicuously silent. These people are not used to thinking on their feet in this way. And Dava turns to Benji. He says, my Lord Overstreet, please help me understand. As a nobleman, you have your access to all kinds of communication that can be much faster than what we poor working folks are allotted. How do you get your message around whenever you have word that you need to spread?
Is radio a thing? Like, I'm assuming with the introduction.
Yeah, radio is definitely a thing.
Okay. So he's going to kind of reach up and scratch his chin a little. And he says, radio is a pretty solid way of getting your message out there quickly. People can hear it as you're saying it, actually, as if they were standing in the room with you. I'm sure you're all familiar. I don't know if we've got the means, but radio might be a way.
Dava looks at you in a way that makes it seem like he really wanted you to say those exact words, and he's really relieved that you did. And he says, why, yes, of course, radio would be a wonderful way to broadcast our message about the plight of the working docker out to the rest of the city and perhaps drum up some support for us. But of course, we dockers, it's hard enough to make ends meet, much less having any overlap to spend on other activities. And, well, radio's expensive. Brand new technology, of course, only in the hands of the wealthiest and the most innovative, and it's tough for poor working folks like us to get on the bandwidth,
Yes, sir. I do know, Dava. And as we've already established, we are willing to help you out. We're friends, after all. So I'm assuming you might want us to look into this for you. All you have to do is ask.
We'd be mighty appreciative of that, of course. Why, as a matter of fact, and he's about to continue along, but then he's stymied because there's a huge boom around the corner, and it rattles the pavement, in fact.
Like says, wasn't me.
Hold on just a second. I am being prompted to pay for something, and this doesn't make any sense. My computer is prompting me to pay for something, and I don't like it. So let me just get out of here. Anyway, that was strange. Apparently Skype is trying to encourage me to pay for something. Anyway, so this rattles the paving stones underneath you. And Clank, I'm sorry, what did you say?
Said, wasn't me.
But a few dockers are already starting to leave this meeting, and they're going around the corner and they're starting to look. And in fact, the whole crowd eventually moves that way. So we come around the corner, and there is a calamity. It is a true workplace tragedy. Clank, what are we looking at here? What happened? What tragedy befell the dock workers that caused an explosion that rattled the paving stones?
A boiler exploded.
Oh, okay. Inside one of the factories, maybe?
Yeah. Sending hot steam, flying hot fragments of metal around, lots of people down.
Mm-hmm. So,
Because these are unsafe working conditions, I'll tell you that.
They sure are. So let's see here. How many people were injured or killed in this terrible accident? I'm going to roll one die. And if it's a 1 through 3, then it was dozens of people. If it was a 4 through 5, then it was just a dozen. And if it's a 6, then it was less than a dozen. I got casualties here. That's a 1. So walking around here in this factory, you see that there is steam everywhere, and there are people screaming. As soon as you come into the room, in fact, there's a guy who stumbles past you, and he's got his hands over his face. You can see already he's got these massive blisters forming up on his forearms. You don't even want to think about what his face is. You can see people lying around, face down. You can see just like a leg hanging out. It's a gruesome scene, and it looks like when the boiler exploded, there was like a gantry or something that fell down, and a bunch of debris is over in the corner, and there are a lot of workers already trying to like bat the steam away, and they're putting on these big heavy gloves to try and lift this stuff off. Like, there are people in there, we gotta help them, quick, come on!
Clank will rush forward to help. Mind the grease, get out of the way.
Now, do you have your line thrower with you?
I do.
Ah, okay, cool. So you can maybe like manage to get some of this out there from a distance. You're doing like a fishing type thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'll shoot it up and like try to get to a gangplank up ahead or up above, so I can quickly go through.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds good. So you're maybe focusing on some of the larger beams or whatever, while other people are moving the smaller debris out of the way.
Yeah, make sure nothing big's gonna fall.
Cool. And Benji, how are you helping out with this? Are you on the line pulling stuff away? Are you trying to help people who are injured? What's going on?
Benji has actually looked over and seen one of these cranes used to load and unload stuff off of the ships. And he is actually on his way over there to try to persuade the operator to turn the crane around and try to use that to help lift some of this debris off of these people.
Very cool. Very cool. So let's get some action rolls in here. Clank, let's do yours first. You're doing your line throw to try and pull something out. What action are you using for this?
Suppose Tinker. Oh, well, no, hold on. I don't know, I guess Tinker. I'm tinkering with a mechanism.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. You're engaging with the machinery. So go ahead and give me that tinker roll. I'm going to say the position is risky because you personally are not in great danger. It's other people. And the effect is great because you're using a tier 3 item as a tier 1 person. So you can definitely get some phenomenal effect out of this. And let's see here. We've got a 5. Okay, so risky position with great effect. You do it, but let's see. So you're lifting this up, right? And you're on this catwalk. There's going to be some harm that comes your way. You can choose to resist it if you want, but let me describe it first. So you are using your line thrower and you've latched onto a big beam and you're pulling it up, but you didn't realize that even though your device is capable of this feat of strength to pull this thing up above so that people can get in at the people trapped underneath, it's the beam itself was supporting some debris that's kind of trailed up the wall. And so when you pull this beam up, it knocks loose that debris and it's going to fall down on top of you. Not on top of you, but on top of the gangplank that you're on. And so it's going to actually collapse that, and when you fall down, you will suffer a sprained leg as a level 1 harm, I think. Would you like to resist that, or would you like to accept that consequence?
I'll roll to resist it.
Okay, cool. So this is definitely going to be a prowess resistance. Actually, you did a tinker roll, so I guess it's, what is it, insight?
Yeah, but we can use prowess. I'm fine with using prowess.
Alas, no. It's going to be insight. So let's see how this goes.
I only have 1 hit in insight. So. 3. Yeah.
So you suffer 6 stress minus 3. That's not so bad, all things considered. All right, then. So you find yourself dodging...
Nothing fell in the gangplank.
Things did fall on the gangplank, but you managed to dodge out of the way so that you didn't fall with the gangplank.
Okay.
Yeah. So you managed to get yourself out of the way, and now, Benji, you're trying to convince the crane operator to use the crane to help out these people, right? What action are you using for this?
I went with Sway, I think is... Yes, Sway.
Sway, cool. All right. And I think this is a risky position as well. Things are heated, but they're not desperate. And I think the effect can be standard. You're a spider, so you're more about like plans than you are about greasing the wheels per se. Yeah, so I think standard.
Standard. 0 bonus dice.
That's
5
a
as well.
5. All right. Cool. So you do it, but again, there's a consequence. I think what happens, you come over. Come over and have this conversation with the crane operator. He's in there working the controls.
Yeah, so he's actually starting this conversation from, like, the base of this crane, and I think that the operator's probably, 20, 30 feet up inside the crane.
Mm-hmm.
So he's actually kind of starting out yelling, "Oi! Oi, you! Hey!" He's kind of waving his arms above his head, trying to get the guy's attention.
Mm-hmm. It takes a little while, but finally the crane operator does see you, and he's like, "What do you want?"
"Hey, there's people over here who need your help. Swing that thing around and help pick up some of this stuff. There's people trapped under there."
"I got pallets I gotta load."
"Pallets? Are you serious? There's people that need your help."
"Yeah, and I got mouths to feed back home. You want me to just drop what I'm doing and help out these strangers?"
"You think these fellas don't have mouths to feed at their homes?
Ah,
Come on. Help them out."
fine. I gotta do this one more, and then I'll help out with you. Jeez. So he closes the door again, and he turns around, and you can see like it's kind of painfully slow how much time it takes him to lift this pallet and put it on the boat. And then finally he wheels the thing around, and he extends the crane into the factory, and he starts helping to remove this debris. So it takes a few hours, and the consequence of you getting a partial success there was that it was reduced effect, and it's because it was delayed. But eventually the debris is cleared, and we determined that like 30 people died in this accident between the burns and between the lacerations from the explosion itself and from the crushing and all that stuff. A lot of dock workers died. Like
all through this, then Clank is just railing against the owners. Like he's saying they must have sabotaged it. It's their fault. We need to organize. Strike. We need to strike. It's all their fault.
Yeah, so the longer you rail on about this, the more some plainclothes bluecoats start to take notice of you inside the factory. And before you know it, there are 2 men roughly putting their arms on you, like grabbing you, restraining you essentially. And then there's a third one that comes up and grabs you on the nape of the neck. And they're all 3 leading you outside the factory.
Get your scumbering saucebox out of my face, you bluecoat.
They toss you to the ground really roughly. And then one of them comes up and he says, What'd you say I'm doing? Bescumbering? And he kicks you in the stomach and he spits on you. And then he turns around and he walks away. With his blue coat buddies side by side.
But they got their saucebox out of my face.
So this is a real tragedy, but we do return eventually to the lair. And I would imagine that this happened, like you guys arrive back at the lair not too long after Black wakes up. I think it's probably only like an hour or two afterward. So, Jonathan, what are you doing at this point after you've had a little bit of time to cool down and collect your thoughts from this encounter you've had?
So Jonathan hadn't poured himself a drink, and he's been nursing that for a little while. He's not trying to get drunk or anything. He's just trying to chill his nerves. He's still like every once in a while, he'll put his hand up, still kind of shaking. I've smoked half a pack of cigarettes. I took my shirt off. I'm still sweating.
Yeah. So you guys come in, and it looks like Jonathan's pretty rattled. And I would imagine it looks like you guys might be a little rattled too.
Clink sits down, grabs a drink, and starts to cry.
Come on, Clank. Get it together, man. You're a big man.
It was horrible, Black. You wouldn't believe it. His hand was over there, but his foot was over there. It's not right. It was the owners. I bet it was the owners.
Are you half rats? What are you talking about?
Don't sell me no dogs, Black. Did you hear that explosion?
What explosion? You guys went to the dock? I forgot about the meeting. I haven't been getting any sleep.
It looks like you may have had a rough night.
Rough night? What explosion? What are you talking about?
There was a boiler exploded down at the docks. There's some 3 dozen people dead.
I got family that work at the docks, man.
Well, hopefully they weren't. Hopefully they weren't a part of this explosion.
The half drink I've been nursing, that's rough.
Those bescumbering bluecoats did nothing. They took me away when I was helping.
What do you expect a blue coat to do except get in the way?
Well, they certainly got in the way. How's your midsection there, Clank? Someone want to kick you.
I'll heal. I'm doing a lot better than Jimmy is.
Well,
Jimmy's dead! Oh, God.
are you more upset that he's dead or that he owed you money, Black?
Well, I can't get money from him if he's dead, Benji.
That's true. I doubt you would have got your money anyways. Not to speak
No,
ill of the dead.
but no one really... Boiler explosion. God damn.
It was huge. The whole ground shook.
Well, how'd the meeting go?
well, I suppose it was fine up to that point. Dava had his feathers all ruffled.
He wants to broadcast on radio waves.
Oh shit, that's good. That's a good idea.
Well, except that he didn't have any means to do so, and I get the impression that he's wanting me to do something with that. So,
Well,
there's that.
do you know somebody with access to radio?
Well, knowing somebody and having them do you a favor are two different things.
Well, Clank could build one. He's good at building stuff.
That's true. That's true. How about it, Clank? Benji kind of turns to look at him.
Clank, at this point, it might be appropriate. So, whenever somebody dies in Duskfall, there's a church, an old church, that's now the home of the Spirit Wardens. And the Spirit Wardens are basically the cleanup crew whenever somebody dies. They're responsible for recovering the body and disposing of it before a ghost can emerge from that body a few days later. And anytime someone dies, the bells in this church ring, and a Death Seeker crow launches out from the church and flies toward the victim and circles overhead until the spirit wardens have a chance to find them. And I would imagine the bell can be heard in the ghost field clearly. If you're near the place of death, it doesn't matter how far away you are from that church tower, you can hear those bells. And whenever you were lifting that beam off of the wreckage, and then that debris fell and destroyed the gangplank you were on, and you dove out of the way, you narrowly avoided real danger there. And I would imagine that when you hit the gangplank and you scrambled back up into safety, you could hear those bells, so many of them, dozens of bells, just ringing in your head the whole time. And that might be something that's sticking with you now.
The bells, man. Bells were loud. I ain't no meter, but those bells were loud. They kept ringing. I don't know if I'm up to making anything right now.
That's fair. That's fair. We did just go through some pretty serious stuff back there.
I think I got the morbs.
Well, sounds like maybe today's a good day for getting sootin' drunk.
Half rats it is.
Well, mechanically speaking, if you guys want to get drunk to like take the edge off or something, indulging your vice or whatever, then you'll need to do a score first. But if you guys just want to go get hammered for funsies, that's fine by me.
I like the term hammered for funsies.
It's my preferred method anyway.
The best way to get drunk.
So are you guys going to go out and grab a drink together? Okay. So I'm
I
trying
think
to...
we will go drink and maybe there's like a memorial service or place where the dock workers usually go, and we would partake in the remembrance of our friends.
Absolutely. I don't remember the name of the bar. Let's see here if I've got it somewhere else.
Piglet Pizza's around, but I'm not sure I'm allowed there.
Black as ink is the working class dive that you were all at the beginning of the last session. So maybe you go there. Cool.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you head inside, and the mood is somber. There's always some sort of music going on there, but this time it's just not lively. It's a dirge that's being played, and you come in just as you are getting to the chorus, or just as the chanter is getting to the chorus of the song, and they say, "Oh, tell me, who's that there laying down? Tell me, who's that there letting down? Way over in that docker burying ground. Another dockin' worker, way over in that dockin' burying ground." And there's a somber toast that's raised, and the bartender notices you and kind of silently acknowledges that you were at this tragedy, Benji and Clank, and knows what to do. Pours you a couple ales and gives one to Jonathan too, just because you're with the group. And a couple people come over. There's one woman in particular who comes up to Benji, and she was like, "I heard what you did there, trying to get that crane operator to help us out. Shame he's a selfish bastard."
Aye. Unfortunately, there's a lot of them around. Did you lose someone?
"Yes, I lost me sister. She's gone. Old Tanner, and now she's gone forever."
Sorry, miss. He kind of holds his drink up to her. For Tanner.
Thank you, Lord. It's right kind of you. And then she, like a friend of hers, comes over and kind of, pats her on the back and supports her at the elbow and leads her off and gives you a sort of sympathetic look and a nod. Black, this is your first experience in a while with this kind of tragedy, but you're also spooked. What's your reaction in all this?
I'm probably like uncharacteristically my attitude is uncharacteristic compared to everyone else. Where everyone else is very down, I'm very energetic because I'm spooked. Like I'm a little bit more jumpy. Like someone touches me and I jump out of the way, whereas someone would be very like looking for someone to console with. I'm not looking to be a part of the group right now. I'm skittish and I need to drink.
Okay, yeah. So you're pounding it down and you're skittish, a stark contrast to the rest of the room. Benji, surely you noticed this. He's sticking out like a sore thumb.
Oi, Black, what's going on with you?
What do you mean?
You look like you're ready to crawl out of your skin. What's going on?
Well, when it gets too hot, you can't really take your skin off, mate. You know what I mean?
No, I don't.
I haven't been sleeping too well, man.
I noticed. You were half naked whenever we came back. You looked like you had finished off most of your cigarettes.
Between you and me, after we saved the boat, I think someone came back with me, and I don't know where they came from.
Oh yeah? What was her name? Wouldn't be Jenny, would it?
No, I wish, mate. I wish.
No, you don't. I promise.
No, trust me, man. This guy's keeping me awake. I go to sleep and I see him.
Oh, I see.
You don't get it. Never mind.
It's all the owners, man. They're getting to you. It's all the owners.
Yeah, the owners. We got bigger fish to fry.
All right. Look, mate, if you need somebody to talk to,
Yeah,
Blake's always here.
I'm like, this cigarette has been like cheaped in like 2 long puffs.
Jonathan, you notice whenever Clank says it's all the owners, it's all their fault, you have this flash memory of this ghost up on the ceiling as it was being drained away, and you recognize, oh yeah, the clothing that this ghost was wearing was really aristocratic and like out of fashion by several decades. It would be like in our world seeing somebody wearing like bell bottoms and like a linen flowy shirt or something. It was really out of place.
Hold on, Clank. What the hell did you just say?
It was the owners. They're responsible for the explosion. They're responsible for getting in your...
Yodas. Alright, man. This man I've been seeing, he showed up at the hideout. Thought I was dreaming. Smoked a cigarette, but he was there.
Wait, they're here? And Clank...
Shut up.
Clank just gets up, and he's not listening anymore.
So,
Clank is just going around... like putting traps up and through the height.
nothing.
Derek, you were kind of going in and out there for a little while. I think I got most of what you were saying.
I'm saying that when they were here, Clank gets up and stops listening to Black and starts securing the hideout.
Oh, you're securing. Well, we're in the bar though. So are you securing the bar?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll start securing it around us, like closing the doors and locking it and seeing what people do.
Okay, so you're going around and you're locking doors and you're looking out windows and maybe like posting your own kind of guard or whatever. And Jonathan and Benji are watching on as this is happening.
Benji's just shaking his head. Everybody's
Anyway,
losing
mate.
their mind.
I think it's a ghost. I think
Oh.
a ghost following me.
Oh, a ghost. Oh, well, I thought you meant there was someone actually coming to the hideout and giving us the shakedown.
No, I
Oh,
would
it's
beat
just a
his
ghost.
ass.
Oh, well, it's not nearly anything to worry about, is it? Well, I mean, not that it's not, you know. Uh, well, look, I'm sorry you've got a ghost who's giving you a hard time.
This is probably like the first like sigh of relief that I've had in a couple days. It's been terrible, man. It's been keeping me awake. I missed the fucking meeting today.
Oh, is there something we can do?
I, what is one to do?
What ghosts? They usually want something, right?
He just says some stuff about betrayal. I don't know, man. It always leaves me shaking, and I can't remember it clearly.
You do somebody something wrong, right? Maybe.
I don't
Yeah,
think so. Not any more than anyone else has. I mean, we've been pinning everything on Jenna. That's not really me. That's you. And
well,
outside of that,
God, the thought of Jenna haunting me is, yeah, it would keep me up at night too.
yeah, the male version of Jenna here, haunting my dreams, man.
Well, I wish I had an easy solution for you, mate.
Now this is the best you can do, and I'll finish my drink.
I'll pour another one.
So Benji, you know that there's a way to find out anything in Duskfall. A lot of these ways are not nice. A lot of these ways aren't pretty. A lot of these ways aren't cheap. But one way or another, you can find out anything you want to know about this city.
So, do I think it's possible to find out what this ghost wants?
Sure,
Or a way
yeah.
to get rid of it?
Yeah. You could do some sort of gather information thing. What might make sense is to try and get the ghost to come back and just talk to it, because like ghosts,
Oh, okay.
a lot of ghosts are feral and they can't be
Right.
reasoned with. But just as many ghosts, there is actually an entire faction in Duskfall of ghosts who are stabilized basically, and they're essentially just spectral humans that you can talk to, and they have agendas and needs and wants and all that stuff.
And the ghosts interact with one another?
Yeah. You might say there's a whole spectral spectrum out there.
I wouldn't say that. um, okay, so Benji kind of thinks on it for a minute, finishes, about half of his next drink, and then he'll kind of swirl what's left in the glass kind of around a little bit. Jonathan, he kind of sets it down and kind of, getting serious for a moment. I think there might be a way to find out what it is that your ghost wants.
Go on.
There's a group of spirits that aren't quite as crazy, They're normal. Well, they're still dead, but they're more normal. And
Man, I must be real fucked up if I caught you doing my job. You track him down yourself, you're doing me proud, boy.
well, there's a lot of people who there's a lot of people in the court who have unfinished business. People who pass on too early. So it's things that I've heard here and there. Getting in touch with deceased loved ones to settle business and all. But maybe they'd be willing to find out what this ghost of yours wants.
It's not a half bad idea.
Might be worth a shot.
There's this old man who's sitting next to you at the bar, and he's been really jittery this whole time because generally it's not good to overhear somebody's conversation in this city. But he does. Whenever Clank is making the rounds, whenever Clank gets back closer, uh, this old man at least knows Clank fairly well. I mean, Clank spends a lot of time at the docks, and he looks at Clank and he's like, "Hey, I heard your friends talking there. I don't mean to pry, of course. I don't. But I'm just floating this out there. It sounds like they could use a proper whisper. No, they need more than just a regular depth. They need a whisper if they want to talk to them ghosts. That's what I hear."
And you wouldn't happen to be a whisper, would you, old timer?
Me? Heck no. Why? I can't even whisper that good. You heard it just now. It was more like a shout. That's what my wife tells me anyway. But you know,
I tend to agree with her. I would assume that you know one. Then
no
you seem
one.
to be familiar.
No, but I bet a high-profile noble like yourself, I'm sure you could find one somewheres. It shouldn't be too big of a problem, should it?
No, I guess not. And you're just offering this information for free, are you? Just as a concerned citizen of Duskfall.
Well, I mean,
That's what
if you're feeling generous, I wouldn't turn down payment, of course. Kind of holds his hand out.
Black's gonna shake his head, and he kind of. I guess, do they have paper money?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, he'll pull out probably a wad that's a little fat for this area of town, and kind of peel off a couple of greenbacks and hand them to him. There you go. And thanks for being forthright with the information.
Yeah, of course. And thank you for your generosity, of course. Wow. And then all of a sudden he gets this look on his face like, what have I done? And he looks at you with just a little bit of fear, and then he leaves immediately. It's not, I mean, gangs and criminals are common, but there's definitely a common folk who prefer not to mingle with your type.
And that includes Derek Brown.
Yeah. Oh man, did he drop out? I saw he was lagging behind
Yeah.
pretty bad.
Yeah, his connection seemed like it was giving him hell.
Yeah, it did. Well, hopefully
Yeah,
he'll be back.
I know what that's like.
Me too.
Truth.
I haven't gotten
So,
any.
man.
Derek, you having trouble? You know what? We've been playing for an hour though, so let's go ahead and take like a 10-minute break. Grab drinks, go to the bathroom, whatever, and we will return shortly. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We had some technical difficulties, and we decided to just go ahead and take a break. But we are back now, and we are in a position where we're looking for some information. We were in the bar. We were trying to figure out what's going on with Jonathan, and we determined that maybe talking to the ghost is an option. Are you guys interested in doing that kind of gather information, or do you want to do some other course of action? What do you think?
I mean, it's worth a shot.
It just dawned on me that this is like the most white person scary movie thing I've ever heard. Let's go talk to the ghost. Break out the Ouija board, candles. Where's our pumpkin spice lattes?
So, if you want to gather information, I think that's a great idea. I was looking at your character sheets during the break, and I was looking at your contacts to see if any of your contacts might be able to help you make connection with a whisper, or even potentially be a whisper. Because, you know, like I know, Jonathan, I think your rival, Celine, is just listed as a sentinel, and that's not anything as far as the book is concerned. Like, that's, you get to make up the details of that yourself.
There is like a brief, not even brief, it's like 2 words. It just says guardian. She's the guardian of something.
Yeah. Well, and with her, we had
sentinel.
decided that she was kind of like a freelance mercenary who keeps crossing your path.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of other contacts on your sheets that could potentially be worked into some sort of arcane or occult type thing.
My rival is a corpse thief.
Ah, that's a good idea. So this is, what's his name?
Eckerd.
Eckerd. Okay, so you want to talk to
I like
Eckerd and see
this
if he can
idea.
hook you up with a whisper?
I mean, I don't want to talk to Eckerd.
We should.
I hate
we
that
should.
guy.
We should absolutely meet Clank's rival.
I'm down to track him down.
All right. Well, let's
Absolutely.
have this conversation then. Let's get into character and play this out. So you're in the bar, or would you rather have moved on from the bar at this point and maybe be somewhere else?
Maybe we're walking home.
We need to be somewhere more secure.
Cool.
I think we're probably continuing the party though. Like we took bottles with us because we're all having
Yeah.
a pretty hard time.
Sure.
This is lighting in our spirits.
I think there's a chill rain that's going on in the streets right now too. So even though you're trying to continue the party, and even though you have no choice but to go out into the weather, it's not exactly an ideal choice. You know, you're making the most of a bad situation.
Yeah, so I think we're probably like ducking from stoop to stoop kind of thing. You know, trying to find any place that's got like open roofing. You know, and kind of just hopping from place to place as we're making our way, maybe back to the hideout, the lair.
Plank really needs them to kind of show him the way, because he's walking with his hands over his ears, just saying the bells. The bells.
And I thought I was messed up. Is he all right?
You know, he hasn't been quite the same since this morning. I'm not exactly sure what he's dealing with. He's Clank, but
Yeah, Clank does deal with things in Clank's own way.
that's right.
Clank, you know anybody that can talk to ghosts?
Ghosts. What are you talking about? What do you know? Who have you been talking to?
Well, I'm talking to you, mate. You know anybody that can talk to ghosts? What was that guy you used to, he wasn't really your friend.
Ed,
What was his name?
yeah, oh, man, that guy got you good. What was his name?
The guy that used to pants you all the time.
Eckerd.
Ah, that's who it was. Eckerd, yeah.
Oh,
Don't
that
talk
could-
about
it's been a
that
while.
scumbering man.
Yeah, he
Oh,
was
he's not
his
that
own.
bad.
Well, didn't he used to say he could talk to ghosts?
I don't want to remember anything he said.
Come on, man.
I think you might be right, Black. Something. Yeah. He I think at some point he actually claimed he had a dead girlfriend that he still talked to.
Oh, right.
That was my
right.
girlfriend. He took her,
He
and then she
died.
died.
How'd she die?
So sorry.
But they still go on.
Mm.
Yeah, you know where we can find him, right? Actually, no. I think this is probably something that I can do. Black is going to kind of search his memory for like the last couple places that he remembers seeing Eckerd. Kind of, mentally taking note of what would be most probable, and going there to see if I can ask around, see if I can find this fella.
Sure. So, Clank, what kind of places does Eckerd hang around in when he's not
Places of,
thieving corpses?
places of ill dispute, same places Clank does.
Of course, of course. So, do you cross his path regularly then?
Well, we ain't no chuckaboo, but yeah, we can run across each other quite a bit.
Okay, so he probably
Never-
spends time in the
someone-
docks area.
Someone always ends up with a black eye.
Of course.
I almost suspect that this individual is actually exactly like Clank. They're like almost carbon copies of each other.
No, we nothing alike, man. Nothing alike.
Dirt patches are like opposite.
So, here's the deal. Black, you know that he's a corpse thief, but he's not a picky corpse thief. Sometimes he picks human corpses, sometimes he picks animal corpses. It doesn't really matter.
I mean, there were a lot of corpses around the dock this morning.
There were, indeed, and he could get a pretty good trade in those corpses if he wanted to, but I want to point out also there's this place in the docks called, if you look at the map down at the bottom of that screen in Roll20, you can see bullet point number 4. Hi, Bruce. It's good to see you. But bullet point number 4 is a place called the Menagerie. And this is described as a fenced-off, muddy field dotted with rusting animal pens, water tanks, and gaudy signage. Sailors traditionally drop off any curious creatures they pick up in their travels, which Captain Rye, the strange proprietor, incorporates into his makeshift zoological displays. Of course, the sailors who drop these animals off don't really know how to take care of them, and Captain Rye doesn't know much better how to take care of them. So a lot of these animals end up dying in captivity, and so there's always some sort of exotic carcass that Eckerd could drag away. And between the tragedy at the docks and the usual trade at the menagerie, he's almost certainly between one of those 2 points. So, Jonathan, are you going to be trying to, for your gather information, you could try and locate him. Is that what you want to do, or do you want to? Yeah, I think locating him is the first step. And really, what you could do there is just make like a hunt roll, track him down that way.
I forgot to unmute. That's what I was asking. I was gonna say hunt roll.
Hunt. Okay.
I don't really think I'm in a risky position. Yeah, well.
No, this is controlled for sure. Controlled in standard effect.
Okay. 5 and 3.
5 and 3. Okay, so let's see here. You can either you're looking around, you're trying to find him, and you realize that it's a little more sensitive than you had realized at first, and you can either retreat and try a different approach, or you can accept a minor consequence, which in this case, let's see.
Before you even tell me, I'm gonna accept it.
Okay, so Eckerd is indeed at the docks area, right? And he's trying to capitalize off of all of these corpses that have been recently created by this explosion. But there are 2 pieces of trouble. The first one is that there's a strike brewing at the docks. People heard Clank talking about how it was the owner's fault. And people started going on and on about how the owners don't care to maintain their equipment. They don't care to pay people to do it for them. They just want to let the equipment get crappy and then get busted. And they don't care if there are any casualties, because there are always people standing out in the cold trying to get work. There are always people getting turned away every morning. And here is an example of why those people hold on to hope. Because, yeah, sure, maybe people die at the docks, but also that means that's an opening for them. That's a thing that's developing, but it's not the consequence of you searching. You do find Eckerd, and he is trying to get in to get some of those corpses, but he's talking to the grinders to try and get them to get into the factory and get the corpses for him.
Can when we see him, I want to look to Clank and be like, "Hey, that's him, right?" All right, mates, let's get him. And I want to run over and just punch this guy.
You're gonna go punch Eckerd?
Yeah. You leave them alone. They want none of your body snatching bullshit. You leave them out of this. They got nothing to do with it. That's a desecration of this site, and you do nothing with them bodies. You hear me?
You know, I'll say it's really fortunate that you guys have never been detected in any of your missions. So you're gonna run over and you're gonna rough this guy up. What action are you gonna use? Because I could see a few actions, either physical or social.
I'm gonna say skirmish. I would
Skirmish?
say wreck.
Both of
I'm
those
not
make a
gonna
good bit of sense.
skirmish though, for sure.
Skirmish, okay, and this is risky. You haven't been identified by the grinders before, but you know that these guys are the bad guys, and you know that your crew has done nothing to make them happy, and that's definitely a risky position. And I think, we'll call it standard effect.
Yeah.
That's a 6. Okay.
So like after I punch this guy, I'm like dusting off the grinder's coats. And you're like, don't talk to the likes of him, mates. He's got nothing but trouble up his sleeve.
All right, so they kind of look at you and they're like, "Oh, why don't you get out of here then? If he's such
let
trash, why don't you take him out for us?"
I can do that for you. Come here, you. And I'll scoop him up.
Clank grabs the leg. And
Yeah,
pull
no,
him
as
away.
soon as I pick him up, I throw him to Clank. Actually, Clank, you and him are about the same size, so we probably both have to grab him.
And
Benji, you grab him too.
Eckerd is this tall guy, but instead of wearing like a long dark coat like Clank, he's wearing a long red coat. And instead of having dark short cropped hair, he's got like this reddish short cropped hair. The coat and the hair really clash with each other. It's pretty bad. But he's like, what are you doing? I'm nothing like those jerks. You take your hands off me.
You shut up, man. Oh,
Shut up. I'll teach you a lesson, you bescumber and spat.
Close your sauce box.
You close your sauce box.
cup in my mouth.
So you guys drag him into an alley or something. Where do you take him?
Where do we
Is Stasia's apothecary nearby?
Sure, yeah. I would imagine she's got a shop that's set up outside our Mixfroig location. So you could definitely take him to Stasia's apothecary.
I'm going to like a back room there, something close by.
Okay.
I don't want to know where my hideout is.
I think it's been a few days since the boat party. So like, there's been time for rumors to spread, but there's also been time for tempers to cool a little bit. And Stasia greets you at the door, and she's like, "What is this?"
I drop Eckerd, like, oh, hi, Stasia. You like the firework display, right?
She just looks down at this guy who's struggling to get away, and she's like, "Who is this?"
Clank,
Oh.
not now, mate. We got to get into the room.
Oh, yeah, sorry. You
Another
was
time will be
feeling
better.
body. You heard that explosion this morning, right?
Evening, Stasia.
Yeah. The docks. I heard there was a boiler that exploded.
Yeah, this fool was trying to take old Jimmy's parts.
What? He was.
Can we go inside, maybe? And he's kind of looking around nervously.
She's like, this guy sabotaged a boiler named Jimmy, and you want me to harbor him inside here?
No, we just need to talk to him.
Can we borrow your back room for 5-10 minutes?
5 or
Yeah,
10
10.
minutes, huh?
Give or take.
She looks down at Eckerd. She's like, well... And then she looks at Clank pointedly, and she's like, I guess he's cute. Bring him on in.
You're a real treasure.
Not again.
You're a real treasure.
You stay away from him. He looks at Eckerd. You stay away from her.
All right, so...
Holy pass.
We're passing. Wonderful establishment. Never been in here.
Eckerd's like, hey, if she wants to bounce apples, I'm not going to stop her.
Punch Eckerd. Shut up.
Eckerd's like, "Ah, God, it's just razzing him." But you guys drag him inside. You take him to the back room. Stasia kind of closes the door, and she flips the sign on the front to say "closed" or "be back soon" or whatever. So you've got him back in this room. What are you gonna do about this?
Who's our talker? Am I our talker? Jeremy. I mean, I can punch him again. I can.
Yeah, I'm definitely not the punching type. Let's see. This is a back room of an apothecary.
Yeah, so it's a low ceiling, and there's like a wooden table that's got a bunch of beakers and tubes and stuff set up on it, and you've got herbs and bottles and boxes and stuff along one wall, and you've got a bunch of solutions on the other wall, and in the middle is where this table is set up. And it looks like it's all pretty delicate stuff.
Is there any rope or anything?
Is there what?
Rope?
Yeah, sure.
Would be worth tying up.
If nothing else, you could have definitely brought it with you. So yeah, you tie up Eckerd. There's a chair that you can tie him up in if you want.
Absolutely.
As he's tying him up, I casually flick the electrification of my grapple thing. Just let it spark.
You're just holding it and intimidating him. Is that what's going on?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to make a roll for this to try and soften him up for questioning or what?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. Cool. So.
Okay.
You flip it on first of all, and you feel this static charge kind of cover your body. It almost feels like tingling a little bit all over your body, but it's definitely effective. First of all, so go ahead and give me this roll. I think this is risky. You're in.
Is this a consort?
Sure.
Information?
I was thinking something like command is forceful enough to
I'd
get
rather
him.
consort.
Consort? Okay. So what does consort look like? Let me see here. Consort is connections from your heritage, background, friends, or rivals to gain access to resources, information, people, or places. So you can consort with him, but you're just going to have to connect whatever you do with something that has to do with your relationship with him.
Okay. Well, we'll see how I do this. So, you said risky?
Risky, and I think standard effect. Actually limited. This is your rival we're talking about. But if you want to make the situation harder for yourself, you could go down to desperate and then up to a standard effect.
Sure.
Okay. So what are you doing to make the situation a little harder than it would be normally?
I mean, he hates me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if it needs to be any harder. My friend just punched him in the face, messed up his business for the evening.
So maybe it's not that...
I've punched him a few times, actually.
Maybe it's not that you're making the relationship between you and him harder. Maybe it's that you're living a little more dangerously and you're threatening to, if you do this wrong, destroy some stuff in this back room.
Okay, yeah. That works.
Okay, cool.
So, desperate.
So pissed.
And you said standard?
Yeah, desperate and standard.
Ooh.
That's a 3. It's the worst outcome. So you turn on this lightning arc thing on the line thrower, and you brandish it at Eckerd because what's the historical link as to why you did this particular thing against him?
Why I brandished the thing at him?
Yeah, why did you think this lightning thing would be effective against him? It has something to do with your backstory with him.
Well, that's how our ex-girlfriends died. She got electrocuted.
Oh wow,
And,
okay.
Because we were fighting over her because Eckerd stole her from me, and we were fighting, and I mean things went bad, and might have been some electrocution, and none of us, we were fine, but old Molly McGee, she got it.
All right. Yeah. So you are going towards him with this lightning arc thing on the line thrower, and he's like, Molly! And he just starts kicking and flailing and stuff. And like his arms are tied down, but he starts moving around and stuff. And he actually bumps you. And the line thrower just goes all the way across this table. And it's going to shatter all of her glass equipment unless you want to try and resist this.
I'll try to resist it.
Okay. So this was a consort roll, which means you're rolling resolve for resistance. And you're going to take 6 stress minus 3, or minus whatever.
So 4.
So you take 4 stress. Okay, so you he bumps you, and instead of raking across this glass table, I think you like maybe fall down or you just lift the thing up in the air instead. But long story short, the damage is undone.
I shoot up to the ceiling and I say, "Don't you bring up Molly!"
Okay. Okay. Cool. So he's like, well, you were the one who brought up the lightning. You saw it.
Hey, whoa. We're trying to have a nice, peaceful meeting. He kind of shoots a look at Clank. We're trying to talk to Eckard, to try to get him to do something for us. Isn't that right, Clank? He kind of reaches out gingerly and like puts his hand on Clank's shoulder.
Fine. And Clank turns around and he stomps to the back of the room and sits down and starts tinkering with something. Like he's not going to give Eckard the time of day.
So Benji, as the situation is going on, this is a moment for adrenaline, right? This is kind of a tense moment that's getting out of hand faster than you wanted it to. You too are feeling a little tingly all over. Maybe it's the adrenaline or something, but you're starting to feel this sensation as well.
Yeah, he kind of has like the, kind of the heebie-jeebies moment where he kind of shivers all over. He kind of turns around to look at Black to make sure that at least he's on the same page.
Yeah, Jonathan, you're feeling these tingles as well, although for you it's a little bit more evocative. This is a familiar feeling to you, a recently familiar feeling.
Whereas, probably in the last couple days, it wouldn't have bothered him so much, but given my restless nights and night terrors, when I get goosebumps, I'm like looking around, scanning the, I got my hands still on Eckard here, but that's not where my attention is. I can feel it.
Are you okay? John? Black? Hey.
What's that? What?
Are we doing this?
Yeah,
Are you
right.
in?
All right, man. We hear you can talk to ghosts.
Talk to ghosts? What? You take me for some kind of nag? What? I'm not a whisperer. I just steal corpses.
Look, we're not certain trying to say that you're a whisperer, but you deal with the other side quite a bit, I would imagine.
Well, I try to avoid them more than anything.
You pick up their corpses.
Well, yeah, but I don't want the spirit inside the corpse.
It's I would imagine it's kind of a package deal. At least at some point.
You don't have
At
much
the
of
very
an
least,
imagination.
there's got to be some circumstances where one of the spirit ghosties decided to come after you from off with the body.
Well, sure, that's happened before. And then he kind of stops, and he's like, "Hey." He looks down at his arms, and you can see that he's got goosebumps, and he's like, "You all feel tingly right now?"
That's exactly what we're feeling, mate, and that's exactly what we want to get rid of.
You all start to
Wait.
notice that the stuff on the table, the glass, is all starting to vibrate a little bit. And you can feel the pressure building up in your ears slowly.
You got about 4 seconds before I pop you again. You're going to tell me who the whisperer is,
Friend, I don't think you need a whisper. I think whatever you're trying to do, I think it's going to come to you, and I think it's going to be sooner rather than later. Can you please let me out of this chair?
Nope, not as long as you're not telling me the information I need to know. You're not going anywhere.
I'm telling you, you want to meet a ghost, you're about to. Will you get me out of this chair?
Leave him in the chair.
What, you mean the ghost is coming here? Now, that's what this is.
Look around you. He like chins over toward the table, and you can see now the glass. It's not just like it's like visibly shaking and starting to move like centimeters across the table.
Clank, I think we should get out of here before we do any more damage to this shop.
Black, what the hell did you do?
I didn't do anything, I swear.
Clank, it's hard for you to hear them because the pressure is really building up in your ears. It's kind of unbearable. And you know what? You know what this is.
Okay. Clank will just get up and run out of the room then.
Okay. So you can go back into the main room of the apothecary, but there is also a back door out into an alley. Which one are you going through?
I'm going up the alley.
No,
Okay.
there's a word for how to say backslang it. We're going backslang it.
He's like, hey, what are you doing backslinging out of here? I'm still in this chair.
Benji, grab the legs of the chair.
What? Fine, whatever. Benji kind of strains himself to bend over and pick up this very heavy individual.
Yeah, okay.
I feel like
While they're doing that, my grapple thing shoots in and grabs the chair.
Excuse me, do you have a cart we could use? A little buggy, train?
That's what Jonathan is saying at the same time that this line shoots right past his thigh and like snaps one of the chair legs but grabs onto the chair itself. And this chair is yanked out of your hands. The guy falls down to the ground. He hits his head on the floor and he's like, ah! Soot! And then he gets dragged out into the alleyway. And you two are left standing in this back room of the apothecary.
Like I said, lovely shop. We'll definitely have to probably not come back.
So he kind of pushes Black out.
Jonathan, the same with Clank. This pressure in your ears is getting kind of unbearable, and you know we are right on the threshold of a visitation of some kind. You're muted, man.
That's accurate. That's probably accurate. My character's probably trying to talk to Benji. He's like,
Ma. Benji, you can see Jonathan's kind of losing capacity here. What are you doing with him?
Yeah, he's kind of looking back and forth between Clank and Black, who both seem to be like dealing with something that he's not quite having to deal with yet, apparently.
Yeah.
And he's kind of shaking his head like, what's going on? What's wrong with you two?
You can feel pressure in your ears, but clearly it's not as hard as the pressure they're feeling. Like they're trying to clean out their ears or whatever. And then there's a little bit of like a static sound that's building up, and it starts to get louder and louder, but you can feel there's like, it's going to burst here pretty soon. Do you want to burst inside the back of this apothecary?
Did we not make it out into the alley?
Oh, you're all out in the alley now.
I was pushing Black kind of that way.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So you all stumble out into the alley. The rain has stopped at this point, but there are puddles back there that are a little bit rancid from taking too long to evaporate. And so it smells kind of funky out there, but you get out and then you hear this static and you start to see one of these puddles. Mist is like drawn to it like a magnet. And then there's this static shock and there are these little lightning arcs and this ghostly figure, gaunt, with this stringy gray-brown hair, sunken eyes and everything, starts to crawl its way out of this pool. It's like
The ring down below.
And I think there's some psychic harm that comes with encountering a ghost, so what I would like all of you to do is roll resolve to try and resist this, unless you just want to take the level 1 harm of being rattled. Actually, specifically, it's going to be spooked, will be the term. So let's see. Jonathan, nice. You don't have any consequence. Oh, that's a bummer. Clank is gathering a lot of stress so far.
Okay. I was confused. So what is the level 1 harm? of
Spooked.
rattled, spooked. do?
Yeah. So basically, with harm on your character sheet, you can see the first level there, and I'm pretty sure the condition for first level harm is reduced effect.
Mhm.
And so what that means is that if you are in a situation where whatever harm condition you suffer would come to bear in whatever action you're taking, then you suffer that penalty. So like if you're spooked and you're trying to interact with ghosts, that's obviously going to be a hamper to the situation. And so you're going to have reduced effect trying to interact with ghosts in that context.
Okay, I think I need to do that.
But likewise, if you're spooked and you're trying to do like fine motor skills or something, you might fumble because you're jittery. There are a variety of situations where that could come up, and it's totally determined by the narrative.
Well, I think I need to be spooked.
Okay, so you have level 1 harm, you're spooked, although Benji and Jonathan managed to avoid it. And Benji, you got 2 stress because you rolled a 4 on your resolve. You guys see this ghost crawling out of this pool, and it looks like it's on the edge of being feral. Most of you have seen ghosts at least a couple of times in your life, and you've heard stories about ones that are just totally wild, and all they care about is stealing life energy from a living being. And then you've heard about ones that are like totally civilized and inexplicably uninterested in like lashing out. This one is riding the line of the former. It's clearly bedraggled, it's clearly hungry, and it's crawling out of here shouting about
The ring down below. Betrayal. Treachery.
Clink's just walking around saying, "This isn't happening. This isn't happening. I want to go home. This isn't happening."
Clank, would it make sense for you to run back inside and just grab some amphetamines really quick?
Yeah, if I can.
Reflexively? Sure. Benji, I'm curious what your reaction is to this, because Jonathan's already invested, you know?
Yeah, I think I don't think Benji has had a lot of interaction with ghosts before. And I think the couple of times that he has, they've probably been more of the latter of what you're describing. You know, slightly. So again, because that's kind of what he knew must be a thing. You know, that a whisper must be possible because he's, heard of or seen some of these more refined ghosts. So I think he has gone probably stark white and has pressed himself flat up against a wall and is basically like he's facing off against a T-Rex. Like he's just trying to be as still and quiet as he can, hoping that this thing just doesn't notice him.
Okay, cool. It notices you. It's looking between both you and Jonathan. And Jonathan, what's your reaction to this situation? This is the second time you've encountered... this is the second time you've encountered this spirit, and it's the first time it's happened when you're definitely awake.
Hey, hey Benji. This was what I was talking about. Yep.
Right. Hello, spirit. You mentioned a ring. Is that what you want? Is a ring?
Benji, you two have been out on a Leviathan Hunter ship, right?
I think we had established that each of us had.
Yeah, maybe not on the same ship, but all of you at one point or another had been out on one. Yeah.
Okay.
So
he knows.
You're a little rattled and you're not totally clear what's going on, but then after you say that, the thing looks at you and it says,
The ring down below. Treachery in the silence.
And you know the ring down below is this image of, it's the term for whenever the Leviathan comes to the surface and you're surrounded by this sort of hellish light from below the surface of the water.
So he kind of looks confused for a minute. We don't understand. What do you want? What do you need done, spirit?
At this point, it's crawled out of the water, and it's not able to stand on its own, but it's like now crawling its way up the wall and trying to rise to a standing position while bracing against this wall that it shouldn't have to brace against because the wall is real and it is pseudo-real. But it looks at you and it says,
Want. Oh, I hunger. I have such hunger. But there is betrayal. I am moored.
and it points at Jonathan and it says,
Shackled until the betrayal is done.
Were we supposed to do the betrayal or solve the betrayal?
Concealed.
and it's just this groan of agony from the lips of this ghost. And it kind of moves away from the wall and moves its arms this way. And there's this trash can that's right by the back door of the apothecary. And it's 8 feet away from the ghost. But when the ghost moves its arms, the trash can just clatters to the ground and flies down the alleyway a little ways.
Quake had started to come back out. When that happened, he turned around and went back in to get more amphetamines.
Whenever you turn around, the ghost says,
I smell the salt of the sea. I feel the void. It is in you.
and he reaches out toward Clank, but he's unable to touch you because, first of all, you're too far away. But he does, his hand is kind of going out like this, and then his hand turns to the side and swipes again, and the door to the apothecary slams shut like right into your shoulder and kind of knocks you off balance.
I'll follow the floor.
Okay. So you fall to the floor, and you're still just barely outside the apothecary at this point, because the door is an outward opening door.
I'm popping pills.
Okay. So you're popping pills. This ghost isn't going away. Oh no, this isn't when you're asleep. Oh no, what horror. But it looks at you and it says,
I smell the spray of the sea. The void deep within you, over every pore. You know the docks. You have been to the betrayal.
Was it the owners?
Is this a gather information roll you would like to make right now?
I'm afraid to make any roll right now.
You said you're afraid to make any roll?
I could make a roll, but I'm going to currently take whatever consequences come my way now.
Yeah, sure. So let's see here. I think, desperate makes a certain kind of sense as a position. But let's talk about your action first, because if you can pick a really juicy action, that might affect your position and effect.
I guess I'm just consorting to gather information, right? Is that what you mean, or?
Yeah, so again, consorting is about drawing upon your past in some way, and this might be a nice opportunity to tease out some information about why you are driven to not sleep because of ghosts. So I'll say, yeah, that can make this a risky situation if you're willing to divulge like a secret of your backstory in this context.
Sure.
Cool. All right, so it's a risky position, and I think the effect will be limited based on the question that you asked.
Limited.
Actually, you know what? Gather information doesn't have position and effect. It's just a straight roll. So you're consorting. What question are you asking? You're asking...
He said the betrayal that's down at the docks. So I'm wondering if it's the same people that blew up the boiler.
Oh, you were asking specifically if it was the owners.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So go ahead and give me your consort roll then. So this is a 4.
Yeah.
So you get good details. Clarifying and follow-up questions are possible in this circumstance. So you ask if it's the owners, and the ghost rears back, and you can see that it's laughing, but you can't hear a laugh. Instead, you just feel this wind blow down the alleyway, and it kind of tingles your spines, all three of you. And then it looks back at you, and it's almost like its neck breaks when it brings its head down. And it's like,
The owners, the owners, the owners. Oh, when I owned flesh, when I owned power, and now
and it moves its hand through the wall, and it says,
nothing. The owners, everything flows upward. Everything comes from above. Whose the fault? Whose betrayal? It is the betrayal of an owner gone soft.
An owner gone soft. Well, who? What? None of the owners are soft at all. They're all sootin' bastards. Every last one of them.
Secrets. Secrets in the silence. Lowered standing by force. Forced in the silence. Watched in the silence. Ever in the silence.
Does Benji know of any owner who is particularly inactive about all of the turmoil that's kind of currently going on in the docks? Like somebody who tries to remain uninvolved?
yeah, somebody who's, are you asking about somebody who just tries to keep a low profile about things, or somebody who, like, conspicuously does not support or condemn the Dockers, or what?
Well, just kind of the way that Benji might be interpreting the in silence, portion of this, ghost speaking in riddles almost, as somebody who just would be seen as being silent on this whole matter.
Yeah, somebody who is known for silence. You could definitely do a gather information roll about that.
Okay.
So you're basically asking then, like, what is the source of the silence?
Yes.
Cool.
Who is it that's silent?
What action are you doing for this?
Let's see. I guess sway maybe.
Sway makes a lot of sense to me. I think you're taking a pretty logical approach to this, and that's absolutely in the realm of Sway.
Okay. So sway. What's the position?
For this, it's gather information, so there's no position or effect.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. No bonus dice. Ooh, God, that hurts.
2 1s. Okay, so limited is your result. What that means, you get incomplete or partial information. So this ghost looks at you after you ask, where is this silence? What is happening here? And the ghost says,
It is concealed in plain sight, concealed and silent.
and it starts to look around, kind of paranoid itself, and then it looks over at Clank. And its eyes are drilling into Clank at this point.
Clank, his eyes are like rolling back in his head, and he's like muttering things. Like, I didn't know you were gonna come by, Grish. I didn't know. It wasn't my fault that you went by right when it blew up. Stop haunting me. Stop it.
Oh, shoot. Okay. What name did you give just now?
Grish.
Grish? Good to know. Clank Tragedy. Making a quick note there. Okay. So, yeah, and then the ghost looks over at Jonathan and says,
You summoned me. Only you can free me.
I don't think Jonathan has anything to say.
okay. The ghost looks at you and it says,
Seek the silence, and I will be free.
I just wanted to be silent. Make it silent.
All right.
Jonathan,
Go ahead.
if you would like, you could make a fortune roll just to determine, how much anything about this is clicking for you.
Fortune. Roll fortune.
And help me understand your context a little bit. So you grew up in a docking family, and you were
Yeah.
expected to carry on the family name, but instead you went into investigation.
I was sent off to a trade school to learn more of like cartography or navigating, some sort of more knowledgeable duties rather than the pretty much death wish of going out with the Leviathan hunters. Didn't stick with that. Tried Leviathan hunting for a minute. Switched to information brokering and investigation.
Okay. So you, at the very least, it's a habit for you to kind of keep your eyes open and to kind of keep your mind expanded to the point where like connections can fall into place for you.
Absolutely.
Cool. Okay, yeah. So go ahead and give me a fortune roll. I'm gonna let you roll 3 dice on this, and I need the highest single result to determine how strongly this result is going to resonate with you.
I rolled 5s all night.
A 5. Okay. Well, that's a partial success. So it's a slippery situation. You don't really have a clear answer here. It's kind of difficult to figure out what exactly this ghost is demanding in order to be free. But you find yourself, these 2 points are repeated and they're resonating with you because the ghost will not give up on them. Concealed and silent. Who or what do you know that is both concealed and silent? This is the trouble. So at this point, the ghost is starting to vibrate and becoming a little bit blurry. It's kind of hard to make the ghost out clearly in this situation. The ghost says,
I will not remain, but I will return. And if you have not solved the conundrum that vexes me, I will ruin you.
All right, we'll try.
does anybody have any like parting information that they want to try and get from this ghost, or do you want to just watch as it disappears?
Man, I do want to try to get something.
Can we ask his name?
The ghost's name?
There you go. Yes, perfect.
Sure.
I mean, I want to know, but Clank does not.
I was just having a hard time figuring out what to ask this thing. But that's a perfect
I've
choice.
never encountered a ghost before. How old are you? What's your favorite color?
What is your quest?
Okay, so here's the deal. You want to find out this ghost's name. I'm not even going to make you roll for that. As the ghost is sort of evaporating or vibrating out of existence, let's see here. The ghost is going on, and it says,
Finn. Finn I was. Finn. Burned coal. No. Finn Colburn. Finn Colburn.
and it's starting to fade.
Finn Colburn.
And you can see almost a mockery, a profane mockery of the rain that gripped the city just an hour before. This ghost starts to drip down in pieces, and eventually it's just as if it's no longer there, but the pool that it crawled out of, the little puddle that it crawled out of, is now uniformly glowing and sparking and crackling like a ghost would. And then it slowly dims until it's pitch black in the alley again. And at this point, we've played for about another hour, so I want to take another quick 5-minute break. It's 9:05 right now, so let's plan to meet back at 9:10. And we will resume at that point. So those of you who are watching, keep an eye out because we are on the prowl. Hello, everyone. We're back after our brief break, and we've had quite a hair-raising encounter in the alleys of Doskfall. A ghost visiting us and demanding satisfaction. And rather cryptically, I might add. It seemed like we had a hard time figuring out what exactly was going on. But its demand was pretty clear. Find the concealed silence, or it will continue to come back. Somehow this concealed silence is related to this betrayal, this ring down below that it keeps talking about. So we've got tasks laid out ahead of us, and I think we're nearing to the point where we should probably do a score of some kind. If we want to get some experience or something, it might be a good idea. But you're in the docks, you're in an alleyway, and you find yourselves now alone. You've got Eckerd, who's lying down on the ground, and he was pretty much petrified this whole time. And as soon as the ghost goes away, he's like, "Will you let me go, you bescumbering soots? Get me out of here. Fuck, come on."
And I think that Benji had pretty much forgotten about Eckerd, like even being there throughout that entire experience. And he kind of snaps to, "Oh, yeah. So he kind of rushes over and kind of undoes the rope. Well, thanks for your help. You have a pleasant evening." And he kind of like shoos him down the alley.
Eckerd scrambles to his feet and like shoves you aside. I imagine like almost into the wall. And he's like, "I better not see you again, or else it'll be at the end of a pistol!" Ah! And he's running down the hall, or he's running down the alley, like stumbling over himself to get away from you all.
I bet he shit his pants.
Well, I think I did.
I know I saw it myself. I stood it real good, mate.
What the hell was that, Black? That's the thing that's been visiting you every night? And you hadn't thought to maybe mention it at least once to the rest of us?
Looks like he might be... Oh, here we go.
Well, maybe.
He's back, but he's muted.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard any of that or not.
There you go.
I was catching pieces.
Yeah, he was basically asking if that was what was visiting you every night and why you hadn't said something about it.
Yeah, that was it, mate. Didn't really know how to talk about it. This has never really happened to me before. I've seen a ghost and I've heard people talk about them, but not like this.
Bloody hell.
What kind of state is Clank in right now?
Tripping balls.
He's rocking back and forth gently, still muttering to himself.
Seated, I'm imagining, like right by the door of the apothecary.
Yep, he didn't even notice that Eckerd ran off.
Kind of lolling around or whatever.
We might actually call out Stasia. Oi, Stasia!
Stasia kind of looks out into the alley and she's like, "What was all that racket I heard out here?"
It's hard to explain, but Black is a friend of the ghost. And well, Clank didn't exactly take it well. None of us took it well, but as you can see. And he kind of just gestures to Clank.
Clank.
What the hell did you give him?
She looks disappointedly down at Clank and she's like, "I told you not to take more than 2 pills. Come on." And she kind of gets him up and moves him into the apothecary. I think we're going to need to jump ahead a couple of days to fully recover from this situation with Clank. Is there anything that the two of you would like to do while Clank is recovering? I can give you one action apiece if you want.
I want to find out who the fuck Finn Colburn was, if at all possible. Unless, actually, that's probably a better job for Jonathan. Actually, he's our information dude. So
Yeah, I
Makes
think
sense.
I'm hitting the books, the records. Feel like with my access to the slight schooling I had, that maybe opened me up to a reliable information source that maybe had like mortician's records, death logs, or something.
Oh, sure, yeah, yeah. So you could go. I think study would be the most appropriate action for that. But if you've got a different idea, let me know.
Nope, study's perfect.
Okay, cool. So you're gathering information. This doesn't have position and effect. So go ahead and just give me your study roll, and we will determine what happens.
2 and a 4.
2 and a 4. So with a 4, you get standard information. So you're looking up information on this Finn Colburn character, whoever that might be, and you find out that that's the name of a former, like not a foreman, but like a dock manager, much like Chief Helker, like a dock chief, right? And he died like 50 years ago. There's the chances that something he's involved with is still going on now are slim. The surface level of this thing is that if he's involved in this somehow, it must just be that he was sticking around the docks, like his spirit was still here, and somehow he was privy to some information about what's going on these days. But it doesn't really explain why he's haunting you. Benji, you got anything you want to do?
Yeah, and can my action cue off of the results of what he just got? Is that
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So then, I think I want to. I think I want to ask around and. I think I want to ask around and see if anybody who may have been around back in this guy's day is still kicking around, or still has any of the strings that they may have pulled back then are still affecting what's going on now.
Yeah, okay, like if there were any really long cons that went on or something like that.
Right. Or like if he set someone up, like as far as position, or if by him dying someone benefited into like a good position and is maybe still benefiting from that.
Yeah, okay. For sure. So you want to find out like what's the trail, what's the lineage from this guy in terms of his
Right.
involvement with the docks.
Yeah, to the present, if any.
Cool. And what kind of action are you using for this?
Oh, perfect. I am going to use. So if I want to use a contact, I do so through consort, right?
Yeah, that'll work.
Then that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit up Salia, who's an information broker.
Ah, very nice. Okay, yeah. So Salia's coming back on the scene. That's good to know. So go ahead and give me that roll.
Okay.
This, again, position and effect doesn't matter.
Okay. And my bonus dice. Here we go. Yes.
That's a 6?
Yep.
Okay, so let me remind myself what happens with a 6 result here. You get exceptional details. The information is complete, and follow-up questions may expand into related areas or reveal more than you hoped for. So, you find out. So you go to Salia, and Salia's like, "Oh, my friend, hello. What can I do for you?"
Salia, I've got kind of a strange question for you. I know most of what you deal in is fresher news. How get on you on the dustier side of things?
The dusty side of things, eh? You want to know ancient history, yes? Well,
Pretty close.
I come by snippets of information every once in a while. What are you looking for, my friend?
Does the name Finn Colburn mean anything to you?
Finn a Colburn.
He was a foreman, a chief down in the docks.
A
Died
chief?
50 years ago, give or take.
Oh, ancient history indeed. Let me think here. You know, it will take a while for the thoughts to rattle around in this desolate old brain of mine. Please come back tomorrow and I will tell you everything I can remember.
Fantastic. You're the best, Sully.
Wonderful, wonderful. So a day goes by. Clank is still recovering from his overdose, frankly. And you go back to visit Celia. And Celia says,
I don't mean to interrupt, but so I'm spooked right now. Is that the harm that stays through the entire session?
yeah, it'll stick around. And so you go to visit Celia again. And Celia says, yes, Finn Colburn. Quite a history you are asking me to dig up. Yes, but I am here for you. Celia always provides an answer for the right price, of course.
Of course.
And for you, tell you what, you win the next race and everything will be okay.
Well, Sully, that's what I do.
Yes, well, sometimes. Unless we tell you otherwise.
Well, of course. But, hopefully that day won't ever come. You know what I mean?
Well, we will see, but that is neither here nor there. What you want to know is about a Finn Colburn, chief some 50 years ago of the dock factories, yes?
Yes, yeah, that's exactly who I'm asking about.
Well, let me tell you the sordid history of one Colburn family line, yes? Finn Colburn was the patriarch of the whole family, and then, when he died, his wife took over. His wife was imperious in the extreme, but she was also effective at business. These skills are related to each other. You should see Spall when he gets into a tiff. Oh, that man, you would not believe. Anyway, his wife took over the business of the dock workers' factory, yes? And then eventually she died as well, and she passed it along to her cousin, still a Colburn, of course. Cousin-in-law, they call it. This figure, Scannon, only had one child. This child is still alive today. Would you like to know this child's name?
So yeah, that's why I came.
So yeah, would always provide, but unfortunately, the name is hidden even from an intellect as robust as a mine.
So, you might say it's even secret.
Secret indeed, however. Solia always tries to provide at least a bare clue. And here is what I have to say to you. The child of the Colburn line who inherited this mantle of chiefdom eventually died themselves, and of course they have one child still here alive today. That child, I do not know the real name. I do not know that anyone does, but I do know an alias that may be fruitful for you. Are you familiar with a person named Coyle?
Yeah, I've heard of them. Well, them.
I have heard that they keep their secrets close to the vest, and I have heard it because I have not heard their secrets. Proof in the pudding, as they say. I do not know what this Coyle is about, but I do know that Coyle works as an assistant to the dock workers still to this day.
Yeah, it's quite cozy with a friend of ours, actually.
Oh, really? Why do I find myself not surprised? You come asking me about friends who are friends of friends. Oh, Benji, you are a sharp cookie, but you cannot outsmart me.
I never would try, Sonia.
And you
My
are
ace up the
wiser
sleeve.
for it. I am sorry?
You're my ace up the sleeve.
And don't you forget it, my companion. Yes. Now, if you would be so kind, I have books to fix. I must get back to my
Of course.
work.
Of course.
Of
Sorry
course.
for the trouble, and I appreciate it as always.
You are never a trouble, my friend. Please come back anytime you need help, but maybe wait a few days before the next time, yes?
Of course. And
Very
he'll
nice.
depart.
All right, so you head back, or you leave anyway, and you've got this information about a connection. Coil, the assistant to Dava, is somehow family line related to this ghost that's been haunting you.
Coil is very silent, and that was one of our clues.
And hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, every time you've seen Coil, they've been wearing bandages.
Right.
I had another answer, but now that you said coil, it's like, yeah, my answer was way wrong.
I'm really curious what you were thinking, though.
It's one of those things where it's like when someone says something, or you've been saying something, and you know you're saying it wrong, and then someone says it right, and you can't remember how you were saying it wrong. It's one of those situations. I don't even remember who I was going to pick anymore.
I feel you. That's fine. So, you guys now have an identity to pursue. I would imagine Benji probably heads back to the lair and shares this with everybody.
Yeah. Almost hesitantly. Because he knows that this is probably a rabbit hole that they really don't want to get down. And this is a dangerous boat to rock.
Yep, sure is. I mean, no, it's not. It's fine. You should feel free to pursue whatever you need.
I don't know if it's any more dangerous than our friendly Colburn ghost coming back.
I'd say we've been pretty friendly so far, just drowning other boat drivers and blowing up ships.
So, you're in a position to find out more information, but I think this is going to be a situation where we have to do a full score.
Yeah.
So, should we launch into engagement, or what do you think? Do you want to collude a little bit before?
I think we should launch into an engagement.
I think we have a pretty good relationship with Roth Dava going, and I think that's going to have to be our end. Find out about.
How in the hell do we go?
We out his companion for something.
I don't know if it's outing.
For being a leader in the dock?
We go to Coil and we do like the Scooby-Doo, like mummy rat pull. And she
It's old man
spins.
Smithers the whole
And
time.
it's like, Child Colburn!
Child Colburn. Oh my god. Yeah, like how the hell are we gonna handle this discreetly or well enough that we're not gonna piss off Dava?
I mean, I'm just going to suggest you are shadows.
That's true. That's true.
Thieves, spies, and saboteurs.
So we spy on Coil, see what Coil is, and then take that evidence to Dava.
We could frame Coil.
Yeah, that's true. Coil could potentially be something that is undermining Dava even. Because if, in fact, she is an inheritor of
Management.
management, then
Does it work
maybe
that way?
I don't know if management's really usually hereditary, but
I passed on my strong leadership skills.
I'm going to pass on my delegation abilities to.
Well, we were talking earlier about the strike, and we could
Right.
use that as our distraction because Dava and Coil are going to be there. So we could use that as our point to sabotage Coil and maybe get one of us in with Dava instead.
All right, so it sounds like you're saying you want to find out what's up, but you're also thinking about positioning yourself to be in a better relationship with Dava and maybe even supplant Coil as his assistant.
That's thinking more for the Docker's point of view, when realistically I'm sure John would probably be all about figuring out this ghost nonsense. So Maybe as like a secondary thing, yeah, we're trying to supplant ourselves, but
So
primarily
I
we're
think
trying. Go ahead.
so. This coil person can't always have this disguise on, right? They've got to eat. They've got to drink. Surely, when they sleep, they probably don't wear all this shit on their face. So I think what Derek mentioned in the beginning is probably our best bet. Like we tail coil, we keep an eye on this person and dig until we find out more about exactly who they are, and maybe something will turn up that we can take to Goblin B and and help ourselves and maybe also your ghost buddy.
Makes a lot of sense. So I don't want to put words in your mouth or like make you take actions that you don't want to, but this does seem like a pretty textbook example of a stealth score if you're going to be tailing somebody.
Makes sense to me.
And in order to do a stealth score, all we need to know is the entry point. What is your point of entry into this tailing maneuver?
Waiting outside where Coil lives until Coil goes away.
Okay, well,
Is that what you mean?
sure. So, do you guys know where they live?
I mean,
What
could
about
we-
like
Go ahead.
following them from a meeting
Yeah, from the strike.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
and just following them wherever they go? I mean, eventually they're going to end up in some kind of home or squatting place they're living, right?
Sure. Okay, so the plan is to tail Coil, and your entry point is at this strike. So engagement. Oh, sorry, what was that, Jeremy? Oh, you're muted now.
I was just going to ask if Baron had a different idea. No?
Okay. So for engagement, we start with 1 die for sheer luck. We have some questions we need to answer, as per usual. So if anybody wants to open up a fortune roll for engage, or actually no, your crew playbook, I'm pretty sure has an engagement roll button on it. So check that out, and if not, then it's probably on your character playbook. But you start with 1 die. Is this operation particularly bold or daring? It doesn't seem like it to me, but I'm open to suggestions.
Well, I mean, we could attract some unnecessary attention or unwanted attention from Dava, who we've been kind of
Right.
schmoozing up
Yeah.
until this point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
not trusting someone he trusts might rub him the wrong way.
Like I said, it's a dangerous boat to rock, I would say.
Yeah, so it's maybe not bold or daring, but it's precarious, and that's close enough that I think it counts. So we can add a die for that. Is this operation overly complex or contingent on many factors? I don't think so.
Doesn't seem like it.
Okay, so we don't need to take a die away for that then. Does the plan's detail expose a vulnerability of the target or hit them where they're weakest?
Yeah, I'd say so.
If we're going to be
I mean,
tailing Coil after
Their
the-
identity.
Yeah.
I mean, especially, this person seems to be going to a lot of trouble to keep their identity hidden.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Certainly
and this
seems
is
like it would expose a weakness.
and we're talking about the plan's detail of tailing them from the strike too. But I would say, exposing a vulnerability of the target, they are on the job at this strike. They're probably distracted because a strike is a much more complex situation than a typical day-to-day thing.
I see.
That seems to make sense to me. So we can add a die for that. Is the target strongest against this approach, or do they have particular defenses or special preparations?
They're probably ready for this.
Yeah. Okay, so we take 1 die away for that. So right now we're still at 2 dice. Can any of your friends or contacts provide aid or insight for this operation?
We haven't spoken to Valeris in a couple days.
Frog might be able to offer something.
Yeah. Freud doesn't really mingle with the docks much. They've got like
Frog's got assets that I think can help us hide, though, sort of in plain sight.
Okay. Well, But trying to hide as like dock worker celebrities at a dock worker strike would be pretty tough. You could definitely concoct a disguise, but I don't know that it would help you because the inherent visibility of that would cancel it out.
Well, I don't know necessarily us, but maybe Frog has underlings that Frog will do us a favor by sending them out, and like they know we're trying to follow that person, and so they can point us in the right direction, like they went that way. Or once we're out of the dock area, there's establishments that Freud owns that we can go through as a shortcut or something like that.
Sure. Okay, so maybe like the route or something. Freud can help out in ways that aren't about trying to blend into the crowd, is what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, and I mean, as long as you're comfortable owing Freud a favor, that's fine.
Clank is always comfortable with owing Freud a favor.
All right, sounds good. So you can take another die for that. Are any enemies or rivals interfering in the operation? Not this time, but very soon that'll start to become a thing. And then any other elements that you want to consider, tier, location, etc. So if you're moving against Coil in one, like against, Coil is part of the Dockers, and the Dockers are a tier 3 faction, whereas you guys are tier 1 faction. But you are in pretty close with the Dockers, so I think that cancels out the tier thing. You're on stressful turf in the midst of a strike, so I think that cancels it out as well. So I don't know that is going to affect the die number at all. So what is the total die that we're at so far, Dice?
I think that was 3.
3? Okay, cool. So unless anybody has anything else they want to add, we can go ahead and roll engagement and get this thing started.
I've got it pulled up, so I'm ready to hit it whenever you are.
Oh, I had it pulled up too.
Okay, go ahead then.
That's a 5. Okay, so you're in a risky position when the action starts. We find ourselves in the midst of the strike. We see Dava up on the stage calling out. He's shouting, the owners, they're responsible for all of this. They decided not to keep up our equipment. They decided to forego inspection after inspection despite our protests the entire time. As a foreman, I advocate for all of our workers, but these owners are to blame for the tragedy that killed so many of us yesterday. Please, I want all of you to join me now together in a song. And Dava is looking out at the crowd, and he starts to lead the crowd in this song, but he's looking over at Coil too, and he kind of nods. And you see Coil off to the side of the stage. They're holding this notebook that they always have, and they flip it closed, and then they nod back, and they turn around, and they leave the stage. So this is the moment when it's okay for you guys to go. But we find ourselves in a situation where there's a strike going on. There are a lot of workers that are just kind of chilling out, and the blue coat presence continues to grow throughout this situation. So I'm actually going to start up a clock right now, and we will get this thing going. Hold on just a second. Here I've forgotten how exactly the clocks work. Maybe... There we go. This is going to be a 6 clock. You can see it here on the Roll20 environment. And then we've also got a note for this clock right here. And the clock is going to be, hold on just a second, to front. Now text here, where is the text button? Here we go. So, for this clock, it's going to be Dockers start to riot. So this could potentially work in your favor. It's not like it's impossible that something like this would help you in your attempt to find out information, because it could provide cover. but at the same time, it could go against you just as easily. The point is, this is volatile. This is a volatile situation, and we need to be aware of that as we conduct ourselves over here. So, who is where in this situation right now?
I mean, Black, you're our guy as far as like chasing people down, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not with everybody else if that's the case. I don't want to speak for anybody, but I almost picture you guys like down, closer to the crowd, and maybe I'm like up on like a walkway or some sort of graded bridge or something that's attached to like a factory overlooking the scene, so I can kind of pick out Coil, and once I'm able to do so, start putting myself in a position where I can tail her without being caught.
I think maybe like you're actually even maybe outside, but you can like see through a window. You can see like maybe Benji. Benji doesn't usually smoke, but the signal is like I light up a cigarette. And it's probably just one that you've given me. I probably do occasionally. So, you know, you see me light the cigarette as the signal of like Coil's leaving.
So yeah, we predetermine like, stand in front of this window or within eye shot of this window. I'll maybe stand looking in the direction of what she's leaving, so I can kind of pick up on where she's going and follow her from there.
Cool. Just to be clear, it's not clear if Coil is a man or a woman. But we are watching Coil as they move away from this strike situation. And we see that Coil is, first of all, going into the factory. And the factory is shut down right now. I mean, the dockers who are not on strike are unable to. There aren't enough of them to actually do the work, so the factory is closed right now. But you can see Coil going into that area.
Clank is near Dava. Like, I would assume that Dava had like a moment of silence type thing. Like, let's read the names of the people that were killed in the explosion. And Clank's one of the people reading the names. And his job is to keep Dava distracted from people finding out that we're following Coil.
Okay, cool.
So,
yeah.
Clank is like on the stage, like he gives speeches and takes part in this moment of silence and stuff, and like telling a personal narrative about how, what did I say, Jimmy, right?
Mm-hmm.
How Jimmy and him grew up together, and now Jimmy won't be walking anywhere.
Poor lost Jimmy. We will miss him. And Jonathan, would you say that you are maybe on the roof of the factory or even inside the factory looking out from a window, or what's your situation?
I almost picture that there's like a secondary entrance up on like an upper level,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like an overseer's kind of like a catwalk that has like almost like a fire escape kind of situation going up to it, and that's where I would be, kind of looking in the window from outside, maybe even on this catwalk, and then able to take the door out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
You were talking about signals earlier, and I just realized this. Clank was good, and he helped set up. He wanted to make this a special occasion, so he set up fireworks for this. But you all know specific color fireworks mean specific things to Jonathan and to Benji.
Cool. So let's do a flashback then, where you are establishing which colors mean which thing, or a flashback where you're making these fireworks and arranging the things. So this will be a role to create these fireworks.
Okay, so the tinker.
Yeah, and as a flashback situation, this is a no stress situation. You know
Good.
what's going on. You've made fireworks before. It's not a big deal. So go ahead and give me your roll. This is a risky situation. And I think the effect can be great because you are a highly competent individual. You got 2 6s?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Wow. So you do it with increased effect. So this is actually, these are exceptional fireworks, right? And what's the tone of these fireworks? What message are you trying to convey with these explosions?
To everyone around me, they just think it's like symbolic of unity and celebration of our union as the Dockers. But Benji and Jonathan know certain colors mean different things. Like red means something bad's happening and we need to be careful. You guys can come up with color meanings too, just so you know.
Okay.
I think maybe blue is like abort and scatter.
Let me write these down.
Okay, yeah.
The whole thing's actually in Morse code.
Red is danger. Blue is abort.
I'm gonna take a guess and say that green could be go.
Okay. And I just clicked on something and it deleted everything I did. Hold on.
Oh no.
Red danger. Blue abort. Green go. Yellow means blue coat.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, so that's enough to know for now. So you set these things up and you start to set off the fireworks, and there's no clear color symbolism going on right now. Or I guess maybe they would be, what is it, green fireworks at the moment?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Benji, where are you as all this is going on?
So, like, Benji likes being kind of almost a spokesperson for the Dockers, but he doesn't consider himself one of them. So, likewise, I think his positioning in the crowd kind of reflects that. So he's not in the middle of the crowd, and he's not up near the front of the stage. He's like at the very back fringe of this gathering, close to, you know, an exit point or whatever. Is this just kind of out in the street?
Yeah, this is, I imagine there's like a big yard between the factory and the docks themselves, and so this is in that yard.
Okay, so he's basically just kind of at the edge of the crowd where he can still hear without any, problem, but he can get away if he really, really needs to in a hurry.
Okay, sounds good. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and roll fortune. This is to determine the reaction of the Dockers, and I'm going to roll 3 dice, 1 for each one of their tiers. And if it's a low number, then the clock will go up more. If it's a higher number, then it'll go up less. Let's see here. Riot clock. That's a 6. So the clock is actually only going to go up by 1, which means that the Dockers are starting to get kind of wily. These fireworks have started going off, and they're in a moment of silence, but you can see there's not a dry eye in the crowd. They're all remembering fallen friends and coworkers and that sort of thing. And several of the faces within this crowd start to flash with anger and resentment and that sort of thing. Jonathan, you have seen Coyle enter the factory. And from your position inside the factory, you can see that Coyle is moving toward the foreman offices.
Can I try and stalk them that way?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to kind of sneakily follow in their trail?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so what action are you going to do for that? I will say prowl is like the natural thing, but I could...
I feel like hunt would also apply. I'm hunting a target.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, gather information about its location and movements.
I guess those are more information
Yeah.
based. Prowl's fine.
Prowl? Okay. So your position is risky because that's what we started with, and I think your effect can be standard. So go ahead and give me a roll and let's see how you fare.
6?
6. Oh, wait, though. You don't have any dice in Prowl.
No,
So I
it's a
take the
2.
lowest.
So you have to take the lower one. That's too bad.
Bummer.
Okay. So we're actually going to start up a second clock here. This is a complication that happens. So first of all, the Dockers are threatening to riot, and that's a hard limit on how much information you guys can gather while you're here. Also, though, we're going to start up a 4 clock, which means it's not going to take very much to fill this thing. And this clock is going to be Coil catches on to you. Coil realizes something is up. And so, let's just pull these things out here. We've got a note for this. Right, and then some text. This is Patrick Hand. Coil gets wise. And what we're going to do here is Coil will indeed gain 1 on their clock to notice you as a result of this, unless you want to resist this. You prowled over, but you made some noise or something. Do you want to try and resist this and force a different outcome?
Yeah.
Okay, so then what you will do is roll prowess, and you'll accumulate 6 stress minus whatever the highest thing you roll is.
1 stress.
1 stress. Wow, very nice. Okay, so tell us, you're moving along. You're prowling through the upper area of this factory, and you're going after Coil, and then almost you reveal your location. What happens, and how do you manage to avoid the consequence?
I feel like Coil does like the standard like turnaround, and I'm right there. You know, there's not a whole lot of like cover besides people in between they and I. So I think someone like shoves into me, and I notice her looking my direction, and I kind of like shove back, but then put my arm around the guy and like not really a cheer because we're all somber, but maybe like this is one of the guys getting rambunctious, and I'm trying to chill him out to cover myself.
Sure. So I imagine then, like, not all the Dockers are out joining the strike right now, but the ones who are inside the factory don't. Like I said, there's not enough of them to actually do the work, so the factory is quiet right now. But the Dockers inside there are still just kind of hanging out, and so you manage to blend into the crowd a little bit.
Yeah.
Even though they're starting to get rambunctious and kind of shouting about like, well, maybe we should go join the strike. Who knows? Maybe they got something going on out there. All right, so you managed to duck under cover that way.
And I take 1 stress for that?
Yes, 1 stress, yeah. So, Benji and Clank. Actually, Clank, you're setting off these fireworks at this point. Are you doing anything else to distract the Dockers? Are you trying to incite them to riot? Or are you trying to keep them under cover? What's going on?
I mean, Clank probably doesn't care if they riot, to be quite honest. He was trying to get them riled up.
Sure. So maybe then you speak some words, or you do something that makes them even angrier and pushes that clock a little higher.
I mean, you said a riot isn't necessarily good or bad for us, right? It's going to be a riot.
It'll definitely be a bigger distraction than what you're working with now, but also it'll make things more dangerous than they are right now.
Yeah, sorry guys.
So then, what action are you taking to rile the crowd up a little more?
Like I said, he's giving personal narratives of the friends that he lost in that explosion, and describing in graphic detail the condition that they were in after the explosion, to remind people that and to give an idea to the people that weren't there what happened.
Woof. Okay, so what action is this going to be then?
I guess it's a sway, but I don't have anything in it.
Yeah, sway makes a lot of sense to me. But, you know, I mean, if you fail this... So, first of all, this is going to be a risky position because that's still what we're in and you haven't done anything to change it. I think the effect will be standard. So, what this means, if you get a 1 or a 3, I'll raise the clock by 1. Actually, if you get a 1 or a 3, I'm not going to raise the clock. If you get a 4 or a 5, I'll raise it by 1. If you get a 6, I'll raise it by 2. And you can't get a critical because you don't have any action ratings in it. So that's what we'll do. Got a 1?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're talking about these narratives and stuff, but what stops you from being effective in this moment?
Clank's not a good public speaker. He stops and goes, and he trails off without finishing a sentence to start another sentence. Dare say he sort of speaks like our president, but some people seem to like him. But anyway, sorry.
So here's what I'm imagining. You're kind of bumbling up on the stage, right? And people start to be like, "Respect the dead! What are you doing?" And they're starting to be turned against you as the person who is providing these eulogies. And so you go from a risky position to a desperate position. Benji, you see this happening out in the back of the crowd. What are you doing? You can't see Black or Coil anymore either.
Right. You said that the blue coat presence was starting to kind of increase.
It is, yeah.
So Benji is going to actually kind of approach whoever I don't know what term you would use, the sergeant or captain or whatever on the scene,
Yeah.
who's kind of in charge of all of them. And he's still kind of finishing up this cigarette that Black loaned him. And he's actually going to approach this person to attempt to kind of draw their attention away from the factory where he knows that Jonathan is, and more towards the growing unrest in the crowd.
Okay, so you're trying to get the Bluecoats to focus firmly on the crowd so that if this riot starts up, they'll be thoroughly distracted by that.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. So as you're walking up to them, first of all, what action is this going to be?
I think it's not to beat the same drum over and over again, but I think it's probably sway.
I think sway makes a lot of sense. However, as you're walking up to the guard captain, you hear him saying he's talking to other Bluecoats, and he's like, "Yeah, so look out for any ne'er-do-wells out here, but especially keep your eyes open for those canal racers. I hear there's a group of them in particular that are real soft with the dockers, and maybe we can kill two birds with one stone out here today." So you are in a desperate position for this.
All right.
And I think your effect, it's going to be standard, because if you were a commoner, the Bluecoats would be like prison guards for you. But because you're a noble, the Bluecoats are a little closer to being customer service.
Okay. Okay, so sway, desperate, and you said standard effect.
That's right.
Okay.
Do you want to push yourself or anything? Devil's bargain?
Okay, remind me, what is the devil's bargain again?
Devil's bargain, I offer you a way to make this harder for you, and you get either a bonus die or you can increase your effect. If you choose to accept that complication.
And pushing myself is just taking strain
Yeah, you take 2 stress.
for a bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to push myself.
Okay, cool. So you can either add a die or you can choose to take this from standard to great effect. Or I suppose you can take it from desperate to risky.
I think I'm going to go with the bonus die.
Okay, sounds good. So then you're rolling 1 bonus die on top of your normal sway. And let's see what that looks like.
Ugh.
4 is the best you got?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think what makes sense here? You are going up to the Bluecoats, and you do it. You manage to talk to them. The captain sees you and is like, "Excuse me, my lord. What can I do for you today? Why are you here?"
Well, the Overstreets, they like to stay in touch with everything that's going on, and well, I drew the short straw, so here I am.
Here you are. And what can I do for you?
Well, I was just standing over there, kind of listening to what's being said and all, and you know, I don't want to start any trouble, but it definitely sounds like there's gonna be some, if you know what I mean. Some of these boys they're fit to be tied.
Yes, and if our department had more funding, perhaps there's something that my men could do about it.
I see. Well, I might be able to talk to some of the people who could arrange such things, but as I said, I've got the short end of the stick as an Overstreet, and I don't know that my family would listen to me, but I can always do it. I can always attempt it as a friend, maybe.
Yes, and it's a shame you have no funds of your own. Black sheep of the family, I take it?
Well, I'm the family,
Actually, I
Uh,
glitched out there. I didn't hear a word you said.
So sometimes come.
Shoot. It's glitching out again. Hold on just a second. I think it's...
Testing.
Yeah, it sounds
Testing.
better now.
So I said basically that coming down to the docks is not high on the family's approval list.
I'll be honest, my lord. I'm confused. You want us to pay attention to the crowd because you're not supposed to
Yeah.
be here, but you're not willing to pay us to do it.
Oh no! You've got me all wrong. It's not that I don't want you to pay attention to me. I want you to possibly pay attention to the trouble that's about to start. I was just doing my civic duty.
Yes, and again, he extends his palm. If we had the funds, we might do something about it.
I see. Well,
my lord.
and he kind of reaches into his pocket where he's got that same like fat wad of money that he has kind of stowed away, and then he actually reaches into his other pocket where he keeps like the money that he's willing to pull out in front of people who might have prying eyes.
Yeah.
He pulls that one out instead. It's a much smaller wad of money, and he counts through it and almost like faking it, looking like it's painful, goes to like almost halfway through the stack. He kind of peels it and hands it over to him kind of discreetly.
Okay. So here's what I'm thinking. I think it's equivalent to a coin of money that you're giving away to him.
Damn. All right.
And that's the complication. It's a serious complication because this was a desperate action. And so it's no small change that you're giving to him.
Right.
You can try and resist it if you want to, but you will accumulate stress because of it.
Ooh, I do. Yeah, I do want to absolutely try to.
Okay. So maybe I just had this thought that like you're acting like you're parting with all this money, but then when you give it to him, you actually palm some of it back and you don't give him all the money or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So go ahead and give me a resistance roll. This will be a resolve resistance roll, and you'll add stress equal to 6 minus whatever you roll.
All right. Here we go.
All right, so just one stress. Apparently, you're not that worried about screwing over the cops.
Nah, it's not the first time.
Yeah, nah, it's fine. So I'm going to roll another fortune roll here because we have some restless dockers in our midst. And let's see if they end up... Oh, come on. Let's see if they end up increasing their riot clock. Anything? Okay. A 6. 6 is a good number. So it's just going to be one more then here on the riot clock. So again, the crowd starts to get a little more restless. And the cops, it's actually because you've paid off the cops. And so the cops, the bluecoats, they start to wade into the crowd and they start jostling people around like, hey, keep order, maintain calm. Just kind of shouting at the people in the crowd. And the crowd is not reacting super well. But at the very least, the bluecoats' attention has been shifted in the way that you wanted it to happen. Now, Jonathan, you see Coil kind of make their way up the steps and go into this foreman's office, and you can see the outline of Coil through the glass, doing something in the office there. What are you doing about this?
I'd like to just kind of gather some, maybe just look at the shadow that they are producing, see if I can get an idea of what they're doing in there.
It looks like they're kind of going about administrative tasks. It doesn't look like they're like ransacking the place. It doesn't even look like they're kind of searching through. It looks like they know what they're doing and they're going about some work, tidying up or whatever. And also, Derek pointed out we forgot to establish load in this. So before we go any further, we should go ahead and establish load. Do you guys want to be what? Light, medium, heavy? What do you think?
I think normal's fine with this one.
It's individual too, I should say. Like, one of you does not have to do...
Yeah.
I'm probably pretty light
Yeah,
right now.
I think I'm probably light as well, honestly.
Trying to stay under the radar.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like something that we'd have to use a whole lot of equipment for, or at least for my portion of it. And we have the Thieves Gear, which lets us do 2 additional to what we've got anyways. So, yeah, I think I'm going to stick with light.
Okay, sounds good. So you guys are really inconspicuous then right now. Cool. So, Jonathan, what is it that you're doing as you're observing Coil up here in this office?
I've followed her up the steps, but not into the room. I'm trying to see if there's like another vantage point that I could see in here without catching attention.
Do you have like a mirror or something, Baron? Is that part of like your gear?
You know what you could do? You could attune to the ghost field and just look straight through the wall like you have X-ray vision or something.
I can attune through the wall?
Yeah, I mean, attuning is your general purpose magic skill, and it's specifically about attuning to the ghost field. And as we saw in the beginning of the session, the ghost field is this parallel dimension, but if you were to look through the ghost field, there's no guarantee that this factory would still be there if you looked back far enough. And so you could see Coil up in the factory room, but without the walls between you.
Okay, right on. So yeah, I want to use some of my spirit detective abilities here.
Okay, sounds good. So,
And
what action are
yeah,
you going to
just
use?
basically, I'm gonna use a tune.
Oh, attune. Yes, of course. Sorry. All right. So let's see. You are looking through here. This position, I believe you were desperate last time, right?
Yes.
Okay. You did manage to avoid that trouble, though, so I think you're back into risky territory. And
Okay.
effect, I'm going to say it's limited because you're brand new to this sort of spectral investigation stuff. And so you can trade position for effect, or you can push yourself, or anything you want to do. But right now you're sitting at risky and limited.
I think I might Can I do that?
I'm sorry, what was that? You want to...
Could I take a devil's bargain? Is that...
Yeah, so what devil's bargain would I offer you? I think what would happen is that you can spy and see exactly, like you can get a major clue as a result of this, but as a consequence, focusing so much on the ghost field in that particular area is going to tip off Coil somehow. They're going to feel that ripple through the parallel dimension. And it's not necessarily going to fill the clock, but how well you roll will determine how much of the clock gets filled. I'm going to say either 1, 2, or 3 ticks. So it won't be enough to tip off Coil right now, but it's on the path.
I'd say 2 clicks is probably fair.
Well, it depends on your roll, you know. So if you roll a 6, it'll be just 1. Actually, if you roll a 6, it'll be 0. If you roll a 4 or 5, it'll be 1. If you roll a 1...
So do I get bonus dice for...
Well, it's a
Devil's
tune,
Bargain?
but then when you do Devil's Bargain, you can choose to either roll an additional die or increase your effect or your position or something.
Gotcha. Well, I'll increase my effect.
Okay, so you're going to roll whatever attune dice you have, plus it's a risky position, and it was a limited effect, but now it's a standard effect instead.
Okay. Alright. 3. Fail.
A 3, a risky position, things go badly. So first of all, you definitely do tip off Coil through this ghost field manipulation that you've done. And
I also tip off every single ghost in the block area.
you know, that's not a bad idea. Let's see. Things go badly.
I just got pinged on the ghost radar.
So the devil's bargain was that Coil's clock goes up. I think a complication does occur, and it's that, yeah, you do tip off all the ghosts in the area that there's something going on here. And there's already a lot of tension in the air because of the strike that's building up towards a riot. And so now, like, you can feel the tingling over your body. You can feel that your ears are starting to build up with pressure again. But you do also see up into the foreman's office, and because the devil's bargain is that you would get a major clue, you see that Coil has their notebook, and they put their notebook like they close their notebook and they put it inside a safe. But this isn't like the major safe that's in the office. This is a hidden safe that's underneath the desk, and you can see they put the notebook in, they close it, and then they spin the tumblers.
Ghost riot.
Ghost riot. Okay, so that's Jonathan's plan. But in the meantime, we flash back out to the outside.
I started an 80s band on my turn. Ghost riot. Check us out. We're hair metal.
It's pretty sick, it sounds like.
Hey.
Okay, so outside, Clank, you have kind of lost the crowd, and Benji, you are trying to kind of point the crowd in your own direction, or point the crowd agitators in your own direction. Does either one of you have any particular things that you want to do to capitalize on your situation, or what?
I don't want to metagame here.
I mean, why not? What's your metagamey thought?
I want to get Coil out of the office.
Well, you could do a flashback where you set up a contingency or something. You are a hyper-competent scoundrel.
That's true, but I need some sort of signal to do that. Like to set off something.
If only you had established some sort of communication format that was subtle and obvious. What? Here's my question. What color fireworks are the cue for Plan B?
Yellow. The yellow fireworks.
Okay.
Do I have...
So what's Plan B?
Actually, it's the feeling that there's ghosts nearby. That's the panic button.
Oh.
That works for me. But so Clank, you feel ghosts, and that's how you know something needs to happen. And then the yellow.
I feel ghosts? Oh, that doesn't make Clank feel good.
Yeah, this is going to be a desperate action for you for sure. But we are already in that
I would say like the
territory,
finale. the finale's going off, then like, holy crap, I want to get out of here.
Okay, so the finale happens, and I guess the finale then is code for Plan B. I'm going to say early finale equals Plan B. Get Coil out of here.
Get Clink out of here.
Oh, well, that might be something that got lost in translation. Is that what you want it to be? Like, if the finale's early, it's a sign that Clank needs to leave because Clank is compromised from a couple days ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, if I can feel ghosts coming, Clank does not want to be anywhere near, and he wants to let his companions know I'm out.
Yeah, like he's compromised the score at this point because of his paranoia.
Yeah.
Okay, so the finale
I'm-
goes
I'm
off
okay with
early. Benji.
Well, I can do a rec roll, and you can see if that works.
No, I think because you did a flashback roll to establish this code before, you don't need to make a roll right now. But Benji, you see that the finale goes off before it was scheduled.
Yeah.
And what's it look like, Derek? What were you gonna say?
It's just a whole bunch of colors all at once. It's not specific colors at a time. It's just boom and loud boom, like, because things are going off at the same time. Like, this rattles windows. It might break a few that are close by. The crowd is probably stunned for a second.
Okay. So Jonathan knows inside too because the windows are rattling at this point. But Benji, you're out here in a position to do something immediately. What do you want to do?
So I was kind of lost as to what to possibly do, and I was looking at my items, and one of my items that I have are blueprints.
Okay.
So I'm selecting that as one of the items that I have. I have blueprints to the factory here.
Very nice.
And I think that there's probably a secondary entrance in and out that maybe has been blocked off or isn't in use anymore or something like that. So it's not quite secret necessarily, but it's lesser known. And I'm going to be using that to kind of slip away and get into the warehouse and see what the status is, because obviously things are starting to go sideways very fast.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. And I'm going to go ahead and do another fortune roll to see if the riot clock goes any higher. And let's see here. This is 3 dice. This is riot clock. And what do we got? A 5. Okay, so that means the riot clock does go up by 2. Which means we are 2/3 of the way towards these dockers starting to riot at this point. The fireworks going off early, all of them going off and like rattling everything, just got the adrenaline pumping, and now the crowd is kind of seething out on the dock area. And the bluecoats are starting to blow whistles, and they're producing their truncheons and holding them, but they're not actually diving into the fray just yet. But things are getting pretty heated out there. And Benji, you duck inside as Clank is starting to lose it up on the stage. Jonathan, you hear all this going on outside, and you realize that the timeline has been shortened. What do you want to do?
Aaron?
I caught parts of that.
Oh, okay. I was saying the fireworks went off, and it was a symbol that Clank is losing it, and things need to be escalated. Like, the timeline needs to be sped up. So how are you going to react to that in the context of you figuring out that Coil is stashing something in this safe?
So are we trying to get out of here? Is that we're trying to?
Well, the score was to use stealth to try and figure out what Coil is tangled up in.
Could I try and maybe hide?
Sure, and you know what? I'll
I
say that after Coil put the notebook in the safe, Coil then started to leave the office. So you've got a choice. You can either follow Coil away from all this stressful and gaining stress situation, or you can go up into the office and check out what's going on there.
I would like to go up to the office.
Okay, cool. Okay, so you go up into the office. It doesn't take you anything to find this safe because you saw exactly where it was. It's a much smaller safe than the one that's just like in the corner of the office. This is like a lockbox more than anything, but it's embedded in the floor of this office underneath the desk. So you could probably pry it up, but it would take some real effort. Or you can try and pick it if that's something that you're at all skilled with. It would be, I think, finesse is probably the most sensible thing, but I'd be open to whatever you have to say.
No, this isn't definitely necessarily my forte with finesse, but I've picked a lock or two, so I'll give it a shot.
Okay, sounds good. So go ahead and give me that roll. And
Is that risky and
yeah,
standard?
the escalation of the situation means that this is definitely a desperate situation. And are you trained? Do you have like? I'm going to say this is a limited effect for picking the lock, because this wasn't really part of the plan. But if you've got items or something like that could help you, then we could be in business.
I haven't declared any of my items yet. Burglary gear.
Burglary gear? Yeah, that could work really well.
Yeah, so maybe as a backdoor thought, I brought a couple of lock picks with me, maybe some gloves.
All right, yeah. So, set of lock picks, blah, blah, blah. So I'll let you upgrade this to, as your tier 1, I'll let you upgrade this from limited to standard. So it's desperate and standard. Do you want to push yourself or take a devil's bargain or anything like that?
No, I think I've done enough of that for today.
Okay. So
I alerted every ghost in the block.
it's true. It's true.
And so no bonus dice.
Correct. Yeah, you'll just do.
God damn it.
Oh, a 2. No.
I didn't even try. I just kind of smashed my hand into the box and I walked away.
Oh no. So let's see. Yeah, you come up and you try to pick the lock, and it turns out that it's like booby-trapped, and there's this huge alarm that starts blaring inside the factory, and it draws people to your location. But you can resist this if you want. Are you interested in doing that?
Yeah, I can't have 2 mobs of people after me.
All right, so it'll be a prowess roll to resist, and I will say that the alarm will still go off, but you will jump on it in time to be able to smother it if you choose to resist this.
All right, let's do it. Yeah.
Okay,
There
cool.
they are.
So no stress gained on top of that, but unbeknownst to you, that alarm was tied to coil, and so you don't suffer all of the consequences of this thing, but because it was a desperate position, you are going to suffer some of the consequences, and that's that coil realizes their alarm went off on their safe.
If they come in here, I'm beating their ass.
All right.
That's all I got. I'm scared. I'm cornered.
So Benji, I imagine you arrive in this office and you see that Jonathan Black is on the ground and he's looking pretty cagey.
Black, what are you doing?
It's too much to explain. I gotta get this lock open.
What are you even talking about? He kind of walks around the safe, the desk. You're breaking into a safe?
It's Coil's safe. Their notebook is in here. It's gotta be important.
Move out of the way. Move. You daft bastard. He's gonna actually pull out his own safe cracking kit.
Okay. And yours, I don't think you have any like bonuses to your gear quality, do you? From special abilities or anything like that?
No, I have burglary gear as one of the things, but I mean, I figured I'm a spider. I've probably done something like this before.
Okay. Maybe like part of your background or something. Background or heritage.
I mean, I come from a noble merchant family. I don't imagine that all of our business has been, all of our success in business has been legitimate.
Yeah. I mean, it's Duskval we're talking about. Come on.
Exactly.
Okay. So, yeah, you hunker down and you start to pick this lock. I think it's going to be a desperate position for you still, but we'll call it a standard effect. And then with your lock picks, you can raise it up to great.
And it is finesse.
Yeah. Well, it could be finesse. It could be tinker. If you're just trying to like hack your way in there one way or another, it could be wreck. It's up to you.
Finesse is kind of what I was picturing. So
Okay. Yeah. Let's give finesse a try then.
You said the position was
Desperate, and the effect is great.
Okay.
If you want, you could trade position for effect and go to risky standard. That'll make your consequences less severe if you fail.
No, I'm good. But I'm going to push myself.
Okay.
2 stress. I'll get a tick and prowess. It's desperate. And 1 bonus die.
Okay. And are you pushing yourself or anything?
Yes, I did push myself
Okay, gotcha.
to get a
Yeah,
bonus die.
that makes sense. So go ahead and give me that roll then.
Oh,
A 4.
fuck. Yes.
So you do it, but there's a complication.
Damn it.
Here's the deal. Unless you want to resist it, you manage to pick this lock and you produce this notebook. It's the only thing inside the strongbox. But in order to do it, Jonathan has to get off of the thing. And when you open the thing, the door opens and the alarm goes off a second time. And so everybody will be alerted. It'll finish the coil clock. And you'll have to beat a really hasty retreat to be able to get away unscathed. Are you interested in resisting that?
As a player, Jeremy is very interested in resisting that, but my character's whole thing is, like, his vice is speed. So having to make a hasty getaway sounds like his bag.
All right. Okay, then. So you are going to go ahead and accept that consequence, is what I'm hearing.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so coil. Hold on just a second. I moved this to the wrong layer.
Sorry if that screws you, Baron, but
Let me get off the thing before we go throwing it open.
All right. So here's the deal. You produced the notebook, right? You produced the notebook from the thing, and you and Black are both kind of kneeling there with the notebook in your hands. The door opens, and Coil walks in and sees the two of you.
I hit her.
So Coil is now wise to who is snooping around. And Jonathan, you're going to rush him and sock him?
Well, wait, before that, so Clink got out off the stage.
Uh-huh.
Okay, before, and wants to find his friends. It's
Okay.
like, stuff's about to go down. So Clink went into the factory, and I don't know. I guess he probably sees Coil, and so we'll follow Coil too. So Coil might be there, but Clink is right behind Coil at that point.
Okay. So what you could do is like lend assistance to Jonathan as Jonathan attacks Coil.
I'll do that.
Okay. So you'll take 1 stress, and Jonathan, you get an additional die to whatever attack action you're making. So what action are you taking against Coil?
you're muted, Baron.
Thank goodness I was just talking for like 3 minutes. I would say skirmish, but I want to say more of like a finesse to kind of keep her quiet. Not, I keep saying her, they. I'm not trying to just like bash their face, and I'm trying to like, slam up against the wall and cover their mouth. So.
Okay, yeah. So it's not so much like you're trying to punch them into unconsciousness. Instead, you're trying to like choke them out or something.
Yeah. So
Okay.
maybe a finesse.
That makes sense. Yeah, finesse works for me. It's definitely a desperate position, and I hope you guys have been marking experience points for all these desperate rolls too. We've had a lot of them this round or this session. Effect is standard. This is a toe-to-toe thing. Yeah,
And then I get 1 bonus dice from Clank.
that's right.
2 5s.
2 5s. Okay, so you do it, but there's a consequence. You suffer severe harm. A serious complication occurs. You have reduced effect. I think you're gonna get stabbed.
I knew. I was like, she stabs me.
You come up. You come up to. You come up to knock Coil out, and Clank is there to help you. But as you grab onto Coil, Coil produces a knife out of nowhere and stabs you right in the gut. This is severe harm, so this is level 3 harm that you're suffering here.
So I need help. What exactly is the parameters of level 3 harm?
Well, let's just pull out the book really quick and I'll tell you.
I can also pull out the book.
Harm is on page 31. And so, let's see here.
I'm impaled.
Well, not necessarily. You're stabbed. You have a stab wound. But, let's see. Character suffers the penalty indicated at the end of the row. And then it just takes a while to recover. You'd have to record severe harm, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so you need help. You've been stabbed in the gut, and you need help. And Coil is right here trying to worm away.
Oh, she bloody got me, mates. Right in the gut.
Coil is going to try to escape, so if somebody wants to try and restrain them, then go ahead, but otherwise they're going to get away. What do you want to do?
Clank!
I'll try.
Okay.
I will skirmish.
Bash her fucking face in.
All right, so this is desperate for sure. There's a lot riding on this, but I'm going to say your effect can be great because your size is so much bigger than Coil's.
That's good.
A question.
So you all know, I am one stress away from another trauma.
Oh, man.
I filled up all my pips for my prowess. Do we handle that afterward?
You
Or is
handle
that
it
something-
right now. You can immediately gain an action rating in one of the actions.
Alright.
Oh no! Oh
Alright,
no!
so we're gonna go.
Clank,
off.
you get stabbed too, buddy.
I'm getting stabbed too, yeah.
This is level 3 harm you're suffering right now.
Game over, man.
And
I blame you
Coil
all.
Coil stabs you and shoves you aside and runs down the stairs and out into the night. I think we're gonna need somebody to make a roll to get us out of here safely, but
Yeah.
this is the first time you've really failed a score, and there are gonna be some consequences, my friends. Let me tell you.
Well, we have the book, right? So hopefully the book shows the Coil
The
was
book- the
two
book's
times-
blank. It's got doodles in it. I got stabbed for this.
Oh
All
my
right,
God.
so who's gonna try and get us out of here safely? I feel like Benji's the only one who's not stabbed.
That's definitely the case. I will definitely attempt.
You could maybe, I don't know if you have a plan for the present, but a flashback could work too, like arranging some sort of plan for escape.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we have the electric eat parked somewhere nearby,
Cool,
Um,
okay.
and we're gonna make a mad dash for the eek and then jet the fuck out of here.
Yeah, that sounds really good. So I don't know that's not really a flashback. You can just make a roll to navigate the boat away safely. This is still a desperate situation. Your effect is great because you're the pilot of the Eek. Actually,
Okay, so-
it would be great, but you're hauling 2 injured people alongside you too, and so getting
Right.
to the boat is difficult. I'm going to say this is actually
Oh,
a
hey,
standard
wait.
effect.
Just so you know, and I don't know if this changes anything, I have armor on.
Yeah, so you can expend armor to absorb something, but it's something you're supposed to do in the moment.
Well, okay, I've had armor checked for a while.
Well,
never
first of all, it shouldn't be checked. It's the sort of thing you check off like in the moment whenever you're ready to use it. But let me see here.
We've never used armor. Like, we've never attempted to be stabbed before.
Right.
So that will be my defense, but I will let you rule on that. I'm not trying to...
Yeah, I think this is Duskfall. Life is hard in Duskfall, so It's good to
That's
keep that
fine.
in mind, but let this be a lesson
Okay.
to you, I suppose, is what I should say.
That's fine.
Okay. I'm sorry, though. It's a bummer. So, Benji, go ahead and give me your roll to get everybody out of here. Like I said, it's a desperate position. It's a standard effect.
Standard effect. Okay. 2 bonus dice and 4.
A 4?
Best I got.
Well, a 4, you do it, but there's a consequence. I'm going to say the officer is going to notice this boat speeding away and realize that there were people at the riot who are connected to this boat. Do you want to resist that, or do you want to accept that consequence?
I am going to resist.
Okay, cool. So roll prowess then, and it's 6 stress minus whatever you roll.
4.
2 stress. Okay. So yeah, you get out of there, and
So that fills my stress bar.
oh, it does.
It does.
Okay,
For the first
so
time.
you are traumatized out. It's good that this is the last roll because you're driving away, but in the midst of this trip back to the lair, it's too much for you, and you just let go of the controls, and you're like shaking or whatever in the boat. I don't know what that looks like, but one of the other crew members is going to have to master their injuries long enough to get the boat into the place.
So I clear my stress and I mark a trauma.
Yeah, you pick one of those, and that's a condition that you suffer from for the rest of the time.
Ooh, reckless is one of the choices.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I'm going to go with.
Okay. Cool. You're living even more dangerously than you were. That's awesome. But you guys do make it back, and now we have to do downtime. I want to move through this pretty quickly. I know it's getting really late for you, Baron. So let's see. 2 rep per score by default. If the target is a higher tier, take +1 rep per tier higher. So that's 4 reps so far for your crew. If the target of the score, you also earn coin based on the nature of the operation. I don't know that you earn any coin for this. Yeah, so that's that. You're going to get 4 rep and 0 coin. Now for heat. After a score or conflict with an opponent, the crew takes heat. Add +1 heat for a high profile or well-connected target, so that's 1. Add +1 heat if the situation happened on hostile turf. It did not. You're not at war. There was no killing involved. So that's just 1 extra heat. But let's see here. Would you describe this as contained, loud and chaotic, or wild?
I think that was pretty well contained. No, that was awful. I would say wild.
Yeah, devastating exposure. I think devastating exposure would make the most sense to me if you had chosen not to resist that final roll. But because the cops didn't discover you, I could be convinced that it's just loud and chaotic with high exposure instead.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so that's 4 heat plus the 1, so 5 heat total.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's
You got this, Derek? Are you marking all this down on our crew sheet? Okay, cool. Thank you.
And now we've got one more thing we need to do here. This is fortune. This is going to be your entanglement roll. You roll dice according to your wanted level, and you don't have a wanted level yet, so this is 0 dice. And let's see here. Submitting this is heat. What do you got? A 3 and a 4. So the 4 is higher. No, sorry. The 3 is the lower one that you're supposed to take. So
We had 3 more heat?
no, you don't add heat. This is an entanglement thing. So what happens is it's the usual suspects, which is really unfortunate that you've rolled this every single time we've done downtime. But here's the deal: the bluecoats grab someone in the periphery of your crew. One player volunteers a friend or a vice purveyor as the person most likely to be taken. Make a fortune roll to find out if they resist questioning, or pay the bluecoats off with coin. Does anybody have any suggestions about somebody to offer up? Because I have an alternative in mind if nobody has any ideas.
I would love to hear the alternative.
I think Dava gets taken in by the Bluecoats.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I think that makes really good sense in this situation. As unfortunate as it is, but it'll make it really interesting, I'm sure.
Okay. So here is the next thing. We have to roll fortune to determine. Let's see. This is roll fortune according to your tier, which is 1 die. That's too bad. This is the usual suspects. Dava. This is to find out if he spills the beans. All right. A 1. Oh no.
Dava, you soft-bellied bastard!
That's an additional 2 heat that you've gathered.
We are full on heat then.
He didn't even fucking try.
You're full on
No.
heat? Okay, so you clear heat and you gain 1 wanted level then.
He saw them coming and just shouted it out.
Uh-huh.
Electric Ink, it's them.
Yep.
They're like, Davo, he didn't actually want you.
Man, and can I? Okay, so we're done with the session at this point. We can do
This is
experience
awful.
quickly after we get offline or whatever. But there are downtime actions that you guys can do. I do want to wait until the beginning of the next session when we do those, or we can handle them offline or whatever. But the moral of the story is we have come to the end of our session. Things are hectic here in the city of Duskfall, and
We just fucking blew our cover.
it's true. So
It's all the ghost's fault.
let's.
We went from inconspicuous to wanted. Like that.
That's rough. So let's do some outros really quick. Let's do Jeremy, you first. Thanks for playing, man. Tell us where we can find you.
Absolutely, it's always a pleasure. Even whenever getting bent over the table like this. But yeah, I'm Jeremy. I have been playing Benji very, very poorly this evening, and I have the YouTube channel, the Erasmus Expeditions, where we have live plays and stuff like this. Definitely come and check us out. We've got a couple coming up very, very soon, including a new campaign where you will see Baron and Eli very, very soon on Sunday. In addition, I'm also 1/3 of the podcast, The Dudes of Yore, also found on YouTube. So go check us out. Thank you very much, guys, for providing a comedic evening.
I think the technical term is shit show. All right, well, Derek, tell us who you are and where we can find you.
I'm Derek. You apparently can find me here. Yeah, same Jeremy. Welcome to our shit show of a game today. Hopefully things will turn around, and looking forward to seeing what other mischief we can all get into.
Cool. And last but not least, Baron.
What's up, everybody? I'm Baron. I played Jonathan Black, 1/3 of the shit show this evening. You can find me over at RWD Gaming on YouTube. We got live plays, and hopefully you'll see me tomorrow night, July 25th, 2018, playing some Mecha Hack, brought to you by the Absolute Tabletop Community.
Very exciting. All right. Well, everyone else, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Eli Kurtz. I'm the head honcho of the Mythic Gazetteer. We are producing this thanks to the Blades in the Dark system, published by Evil Hat and created by John Harper. So with that, we will be uploading this to YouTube, and we'll be running our next game here in the next couple of weeks. So our tale draws to a close for now, but remember to tune in next time for Ring Down Below, presented by KMGX. Our next broadcast goes live sometime in the future. Until then, keep your eyes on the canals. We're on the prowl.